Chapter 956. The burly men accompanying them had never heard of such a secret, and they were all quite shocked. During the 100 years that Ning Fan had been in the desolate land, the news of him being the successor of ancient chaos and forcing the dark race to retreat had almost spread across the second step of Eastern Heaven. Which second step Almighty did not know about the Rain Immortal Lord's shocking background. The successor of ancient chaos. Moreover, the remnant soul of the ancient chaos heavenly emperor had actually survived until now. This matter was truly unbelievable, but they had no choice but to believe it. That was an ancient emperor who had stepped on the corpses of saints. With just a wisp of his soul, he was able to force the entire dark race to bow their heads and hand over their treasures. With such a master protecting him, even an immortal emperor would not dare to find trouble with him. Therefore, in the 100 years that Ning Fan had disappeared, his reputation did not diminish but increased instead. It was because his identity as the successor of ancient chaos clan had spread far and wide. However, his master had actually said such a shocking piece of news. Ancient chaos was about to die. If ancient chaos dies, Ning Fan would lose his greatest backer. A true expert would never put Ning Fan, who had lost his power, in their eyes. As for the members of the dark race who had been bullied and humiliated by ancient chaos, would they take revenge on Ning Fan, the successor of ancient chaos? It's hard to say. Master is wise. If this news is true, then the bullshit Rain Immortal Monarch is not even worth mentioning. We really don't need to be polite to him. If we see Ning Fan, we won't have to trouble Master to deal with him. We can just directly tie him up and bring him back to the Luo clan to complete our mission. One of the burly men laughed and said, "Actually, there is a deeper meaning behind Master's action. That is, by humiliating the descendant of ancient chaos, you want to express your goodwill to the dark race. The Battle King Luo clan has already declined. It is time for us to find a new big tree. If we can rely on the secret race, this will definitely pave the way for our future. Master's foresight is truly admirable." Another man exclaimed in admiration. Instantly, compliments filled the air. The Roshan cultivator rubbed the fat on his belly and laughed heartily. He was obviously in a good mood. If I can climb up the tree that is the dark race, even those thought-shattering old monsters will have to call me fellow cultivator. Let's speed up. The earlier we kidnap Ning Fan, the earlier we can report back to the Luo clan. Yes. Rumble. As soon as the spirit boat entered the Chaos Devil Galaxy, a deafening sound of thunder was heard. The mighty sound shocked the Roshan cultivator so much that he lost his balance and fell off the rattan chair. What a powerful formation. I wonder which senior set up a formation in this starry sky. After recovering from the shock, the cultivator who looked like a mountain of flesh retracted his arrogance. He lowered his voice and whispered to his subordinate beside him. "Slow down. Let's do this in a low-key manner. When we capture Ning Fan, don't make too much noise. We must not disturb that senior." Yes. Gradually, the formation was completed, and the monstrous power gradually retracted until it completely disappeared. Ning Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. With the protection of this formation, even Swan Nyen Old Monster might not be able to hurt the 1,000-year sect. In this way, the remaining barbarians would be able to live peacefully here. The barbarians have been settled. Next, it's time to do other things. After 100 years, Ning Fan had already inquired about the current situation in Eastern Heaven. There was also a detailed jade slip in his hand. It was the information that Zhao Yukai and the others had obtained for Ning Fan. The 4 experts who had amassed wealth were left behind by Ning Fan in the Qianqiu sect. They still held the position of elders and were responsible for earning money for the sect. Of course, Ning Fan could not sell the Turtle Palace map anymore. He had to find other ways to earn money for the sect. Ning Fan flipped his palm and took out Zhao Yotsai's message transmission jade slip to listen to the information. 10 years ago, there was a strange phenomenon of the red sun illuminating the sea in Eastern Heaven. On that day, there were 4,000 cultivation planets in Eastern Heaven where babies went missing. Other than that, there were no other major incidents. Red sun illuminating the sea. Babies went missing. Ning Fan frowned. I'm afraid it's not that they went missing, but some powerful cultivator took action. Since those missing babies were captured, most of them would not be able to survive. Such cruel incidents often happen in the cultivation world. 25 years ago, the old ancestor of the Dune sect came out from his seclusion. He had already advanced to the eternal ancient realm. The entire Dune sect became one of the most powerful forces in Eastern Heaven. Was there a zero-tribulation immortal venerable? This information was actually collected by Zhao Yukai as well. Unfortunately, it was useless to Ning Fan. 37 years ago, the great heavenly tribulation of the White Cloud Immortal Sect's old ancestor Bai Yun descended. He invited 12 fellow Taoists to help him, but he still died in the tribulation. 76 years ago, the clear divine fruit of the Heaven Circle sect bloomed. 44 years ago, the Eternal Cloud Star branch of the Godly Void Pavilion auctioned 10 revolutions golden pills. 82 years ago, each and every piece of information that was either useful or useless was collected by Ning Fan. Every scene felt like he had personally experienced 100 years in Eastern Heaven. Zhao Yukai and the others did not have high cultivation bases, but their abilities were indeed extraordinary. It was quite rare for them to be able to collect so many secrets with their mere nascent soul realm cultivation base. Unfortunately, most of them were useless. Ning Fan began to purposefully skip some of the information and only searched for the things that he wanted to know. 100 years ago, something huge happened in the Extreme Thunder Palace. It seemed to be related to the palace mistress, White Emperor Lan Yunxian. This subordinate doesn't know what exactly happened. However, ever since that day, the Extreme Thunder Palace has been in seclusion for 100 years. The experts in the palace have always been searching for something. Needless to say, the group of people from the Extreme Lightning Palace must be looking for Xianxian. If I have the time, I will send Xianxian back to the Extreme Lightning Palace. Ning Fan thought to himself. The exact opening time of the Supreme Dan Sacred Region is 5 years later, when the snow falls on the starry sky of the Supreme Dan Divine City. Would the Extreme Dan Sacred Region open in another 5 years? Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He did not forget the promise he made with Ouyang Nguan. 5 years later, when the snow fell in the starry sky of the Supreme Dan Divine City, he would go there. Godly Void Pavilion's Battle King Luo clan is currently searching for Sect Master everywhere, and it seems to be very urgent. Is the Luo clan looking for me? Ning Fan's expression turned solemn. He did not forget the promise he made to the Luo clan in the past. When he returned to Eastern Sky this time, there were many things he had to do, and rescuing the Battle King was one of them. Once this matter is settled, I will make a trip to the Luo clan. Ning Fan muttered to himself. Suddenly, as if he sensed something, he kept the jade slip and looked at the other end of the starry sky. In that direction, a spirit ship was approaching the Chaos Devil Star continuously. It was heading straight for the 1,000 Years sect. Before the spirit ship even got close to the star, tens of second-step spirit sense had already been secretly released and sealed off the starry sky of the Chaos Devil Star. There were even a few divine wills that locked onto him in an extremely rude manner, carrying with them undisguised hostility. Ning Fan frowned slightly. All of a sudden, the spirit ship had already rushed into the nebula of the Chaos Devil Star and appeared in the sky above the 1,000 Years sect. The foreign elder of the Battle King Luo clan, Venerable Futu, is handling some matters here. Where is Ning Fan? Come and see him quickly. Come and see him quickly. Come and see him quickly. This voice reverberated across the entire Chaos Devil Star. Moreover, it contained endless hostility, causing the eardrums of each and every cultivator of the 1,000 Years sect to ache. Some second-step cultivators had come to the 1,000 Years sect to cause trouble. They did not even bother to conceal their hostility. It was not just one but many. 25 of them. There were a total of 25 second-step experts who had come. They did not expect that so many experts would come to cause trouble on the second day after the Rain Immortal Monarch had just taken over the Chaos Devil Star. Venerable Futu. Rumor has it that this person was hunted by the sect master of the Goshawk Sword sect a few years ago. Left with no choice, he could only rely on the Battle King Luo clan to protect himself. This is an old monster at the mid-shedding void realm who has the backing of the Battle King Luo clan. Sect Master has actually been targeted by such an old monster. This person addressed the Sect Master directly. I'm afraid he has malicious intentions. Strange. Sect Master might not be a match for old monster shedding void realm, but with his identity as the successor of ancient chaos, which powerful senior in the Eastern Heaven would dare to offend him in public? Why are these people so hostile towards him? Sigh. I have just spent all my wealth to join the 1,000 Years sect. I hope nothing big will happen. It's actually a shedding void realm expert. It's my first time seeing a shedding void realm expert. The cultivators of the entire Chaos Devil Star were in an uproar because of the arrival of the spirit ship. There were those who were worried, those who were curious, those who wanted to watch the show, and those who were gloating over the misfortune of others. There were all sorts of emotions, each with their own differences. Unlike the panic of the cultivators of the Chaos Devil Star, the group of people that Ning Fan brought out of the desolate world were all calm and peaceful. Most of the 700,000 barbarians were building their new homes in the newly built barbarian city. They did not know what old monster shedding void realm meant, but they firmly believed that no matter who comes looking for trouble, none of them would be a match for Ning Fan. Ning Fan had long become their faith. In their hearts, Ning Fan was stronger than all the immortals in the world. Lu Yen and Zhao Dai were reading the sect's files in their room and dealing with the sect's affairs. When they heard that some shedding void realm cultivators had come, they just smiled faintly. Old monster shedding void. Uncle seems to have killed quite a number of them in the desolate world. There's nothing to worry about. Let's continue with our work. This is his sect after all. We must manage it well. Zhang Yu was refining the power of the pill in his body in one of the halls of the 1,000 Years sect. An emperor-grade embryonic pill. It was a pill that he had obtained from old ancestor poisonous dragon. It was an ancient pill. Ning Fan did not know what it was, but Zhang Yu happened to know it. It was an extremely ancient healing pill. It was extremely effective for Zhang Yu, who was in his incomplete soul state. Hence, Ning Fan bestowed such a pill to Zhang Yu. At the same time, he also bestowed the child relic, that detestable little thief. This child relic can deceive others, but it can't deceive me. He actually dared to plant such an item on me. He is really too shameless. After taking away my body, he also wants to take away my heart. Zhang Yu wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Ning Fan's cultivation base was much lower than her when she was at her peak. Therefore, after obtaining the child relic, it did not increase her cultivation base at all. Zhang Yu could tell that after obtaining the child relic, Ning Fan would benefit from it when she cultivates in the future. However, that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that this child relic could subtly influence her feelings. She realized that her good impression of Ning Fan was actually getting stronger and stronger day by day. I don't want to fall in love with this little thief. I don't want to be controlled by the royal family. Despicable. Despicable. A bewitching technique that can affect a cultivator's feelings is really scary. Where did he learn it from? Someone came to find trouble with the little thief? That's great. Zhang Yu was delighted at first. However, when she realized that the other party was just a life immortal realm cultivator and a bunch of life immortals, she was immediately disappointed. Sob, sob, sob. You want to deal with the little thief with just these few people? You guys are really too naive. It seems like the cultivators in the Dharma ending era not only have low cultivation bases, but they are also very stupid. Immortal Loli was eating fruits in her room. Each of the fruits was a lightning attribute spiritual herb that contained a strong lightning power. In the past 2 years, her mental state was often in a trance. Recently, she often had some strange dreams. In her dreams, Ning Fan was not her father. She seemed to be the palace lord of some place, and she seemed to be very powerful. She did not dare to tell her father about these strange dreams. She also did not know that the things in her dreams were her past memories that were slowly awakening. Another small fry came to find trouble with father? They seem very weak and are not father's match. It seems like you don't need my help anymore. Let's just continue eating the fruits. Speaking of which, why didn't Father give me a child relic? All of them have it, but I don't. Does Father not like Xian anymore? When Xian thought that her father did not like her, she felt a little upset and could not even eat the fruits anymore. I must convince Father to give me a child relic. Earth Devil and Taiya were in seclusion in the Qianqiu sect. Ning Fan had already promised to find an immortal venerated body for them to possess after returning to Eastern Heaven. The demon body of old ancestor Poisonous Dragon was not of the same race. After trying it out, it could not be used for the two of them to possess it. Ning Fan had already extracted the essence of his flesh and gave it to Mu Weiliang and Zi Li as snacks. In the past, the two of them did not believe that Ning Fan could obtain an immortal venerated body. Now, however, they had no doubt about it. Although it was not easy for Ning Fan, who possessed the strength of an immortal venerated, to obtain an immortal venerated body, it would not be too difficult either. If we can really possess a body and be reborn, we will never betray you for the rest of our lives. Of course, they could not betray them even if they wanted to. Their life souls were in Ning Fan's hands. Sensing that Roshan had come to pick a fight with them, the two of them were enraged. How dare a junior like him order their masters around? They could not tolerate it. None of the people that Ning Fan brought with him were worried about him. Moreover, before Ning Fan could express his anger, Earth Devil and Taiya had already dashed out of the cave residence and flew into the sky, blocking the path of Roshan and the others. Roshan was originally sitting leisurely on the rattan chair, waiting for Ning Fan to come. When he saw the two experts who suddenly appeared, he was instantly shocked. Peak realm of Roshan. Be it Earth Devil or Taiya, both of them were giving off a powerful aura that was comparable to the peak realm of Roshan. Not only that, if he was not mistaken, these two people were clearly the remnant souls of the ancient immortal venerated beings. Two immortal venerated beings had actually arrived. Why are there immortal venerated beings of the ancient times in this place? Could it be that the ones who set up the Grand Formation just now were these two people? How would Roshan dare to be negligent? He hurriedly rose to his feet and bowed to the two of them. At this moment, Ning Fan appeared in the sky with a flash. Both of you retreat. I will handle the matters here. Ning Fan said indifferently. Although his tone was clearly indifferent, Earth Devil and Taiya could hear the coldness in his words. They were slightly startled and did not dare to be negligent. They respectfully retreated behind Ning Fan. Roshan widened his eyes. He could not believe that the two souls of ancient immortal venerated beings were actually so respectful to Ning Fan. It was as if they were Ning Fan's servants, using immortal venerated beings as servants? What a joke! This is the standard that only immortal emperors have, right? Ning Fan is just a junior. How could he possibly receive such treatment? Wait, I get it now. After Roshan calmed down, he noticed that Earth Devil and Taiya's faces were very unfamiliar. They did not look like any immortal venerated beings in the Eastern Heaven. He had never heard of any immortal venerated beings who looked like them. Either he, Venerable Master Fudu, was ignorant, or the immortal venerated chi of these two people were simply fake. Ning Fan, you're really good. You're afraid that I'm going to capture you, but you don't know how to do it. Instead, you made two fake immortal venerated beings to scare me. Such despicable methods are often used by cultivators. On the surface, they have the aura of immortal venerated beings, but in reality, they are just paper tigers which can be broken with a single poke. No wonder. Ning Fan stopped them before they attacked. He must be afraid that they would reveal their flaws once they attack. The way the Roshan cultivator looked at Ning Fan became even more gloomy. He actually felt like he was being played by someone. However, he did not know that the reason why Ning Fan stopped the two of them was because he saw the symbol of the Luo clan on the spirit boat. This Roshan cultivator seemed to be related to the Luo clan. He was indebted to the Luo clan. If it's for the sake of the Luo clan, he can ignore his rude words. Of course, what Ning Fan wanted to know more was whether the Luo clan instructed him to be so rude or if there was some other reason. Who are you? What are you looking for me for? Ning Fan's voice was very indifferent. However, the baleful qi that he had accumulated along the way gave people a bone-chilling feeling. The Roshan cultivator felt a chill all over his body for no reason. His body was drenched in sweat. The same went for his followers. At this moment, facing Ning Fan, the Roshan cultivator actually had the fear of facing an ancient immortal venerable. But how is this possible? It's impossible for Ning Fan to be an ancient immortal venerable. 200 years ago, Ning Fan was just a void fragmentation realm cultivator who had just revealed his devil name in the eastern heaven. 100 years ago, Ning Fan participated in the godly void pavilion tomb competition and made a name for himself. However, in the eyes of the cultivators in the eastern heaven, Ning Fan was at most at the crossing truth realm. Another 100 years had passed. How high could Ning Fan's cultivation base be? It was impossible for him to even renounce his void cultivation base. No matter how fast a void fragmentation realm junior rose to power, it was impossible for him to renounce his void cultivation base within 200 years. If Ning Fan revealed his void cultivation base aura, perhaps the Roshan cultivator would still hesitate a little and believe him. However, if it was the aura of an immortal venerable, he absolutely did not believe that Ning Fan could become an ancient immortal venerable in just 200 years. It's fake. Just like the two remnant souls, it's all fake. Thinking of this, the Roshan cultivator became much more confident. He looked at Ning Fan with a disdainful look, as if he had seen through his disguise. I, Fu Tu, am here to capture you and bring you back to the Luo clan. Are you going to follow me obediently, or are you going to be tied up by me? How dare you? How dare you be so presumptuous? Tu Mo and Taiyo were enraged after hearing his words. Ning Fan, however, waved his hand and restrained the two of them. Then he asked nonchalantly, "Is it the Luo clan's idea for you to come here to capture me, or your own idea? What's the relationship between you and the Luo clan?" However, those who were familiar with Ning Fan would certainly be able to hear the coldness in Ning Fan's words. You don't need to know whose idea it is. It seems like you don't plan to follow me obediently. That's even better. Little ones, tie Ning Fan up. Don't kill him. Just humiliate him a little. This is the foundation for us to improve our status in the future. Immediately, four burly men who were bare-chested rushed towards Ning Fan with a golden rope in their hands. Their expressions showed that they were eager to fight for the merit. The four of them actually had the cultivation base of the late ghost profound realm. Their momentum actually caused the weather to change and the sun and moon to lose their radiance. You want to use me as a foundation to improve your status, huh? If that's the case, there's no need to show any mercy. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He casually waved his hand. Immediately, a ray of purple sword light flashed across the sky, splitting the starry sky. It was the memory-severing Dao sword. At the next moment, the heads of the four late ghost profound realm cultivators flew into the sky. Their necks were severed and blood spurted out. They were killed by Ning Fan before they could even let out a scream. Killing four late ghost profound realm cultivators with just a wave of your hand, tacked together. The cultivator, who looked like a mountain of flesh, showed a hint of anger. However, at the next moment, it was replaced by astonishment. As soon as he gave the order, the remaining 20 shirtless men dashed towards Ning Fan at the same time. Their faces were filled with killing intent. Among the 20 of them, there were even 7 old monster Duzhen. Even if it was old monster Shikong, he would also fall into a difficult battle if he was besieged by such a group of people who were experts in joint attacks. It should only take them a moment to take down Ning Fan. However, the result was far beyond their expectations. He saw that Ning Fan did not even move. He just raised his hand and pointed at them lightly. Then, a ray of purple sword light flashed across the sky, easily cutting off the heads of the cultivators and taking their lives. In an instant, Ning Fan had killed all 20 burly men. Then, he stepped on the blood mist that filled the sky and walked towards the cultivator who looked like a peerless god of slaughter. What a joke! A total of 24 immortal cultivators were actually killed by Ning Fan in just 2 moves. A deep sense of horror rose in the heart of the cultivator who looked like a mountain of flesh. Even if he was an old monster at the peak Shikong realm, it was impossible for him to kill all of them so easily. What was Ning Fan's cultivation base? How could he do it so easily? Fellow Taoist, let's talk this out. Everything is just a misunderstanding. We are the guest elders of the Luo clan. The clan leader's order is not. The cultivator who looked like a mountain of flesh wanted to explain. However, Ning Fan acted as if he did not hear anything and continued to approach him. A feeling of anger and humiliation immediately appeared in the cultivator's heart. As he roared, he actually suppressed his fear towards Ning Fan. Ning Fan, don't you dare bully me too much. You can easily kill my 24 subordinates. I can also do the same if I use my trump card. I'm not afraid of you. The cultivator who looked like a mountain of flesh pounded his chest with his fist. He opened his mouth and spurted out an arrow of blood. Within the arrow of blood, there was a ray of gray light that shot towards Ning Fan's head. It was a gray pearl. It was a 7th Nirvana post-celestial magic treasure. It was already a first-class treasure in the Shikong realm. Even an old monster at the peak Shikong realm would need to be cautious when facing this pearl. However, Ning Fan did not even look at the pearl. When the pearl was 3 zhang away from him, it was directly cut into 2 by a ray of purple light. A dignified 7th Nirvana post-celestial magic treasure actually could not withstand the destructive power of the memory-severing Dao sword. How is this possible? Even a mid-thought fragmentation realm old monster could not destroy a 7th Nirvana immortal treasure with the power of a Dao weapon. You are neither Du Zhen nor Shikong realm. You are thought fragmentation realm. The cultivator who looked like a mountain of flesh was finally scared. He turned around and wanted to abandon the spirit boat to escape. The power of a Dao weapon was directly related to the cultivator's cultivation base. Since Ning Fan's Dao weapon was so powerful, how could his cultivation base be weak? Damn it! Damn it! Ning Fan, who was still a junior 100 years ago. How could he become so powerful 100 years later? I was actually foolish enough to think that I could use Ning Fan as my cultivation base. What a fool! The cultivator who looked like a mountain of flesh was filled with regret. However, it was already too late. A ray of purple light flashed and the cultivator was directly cut into 2. His blood that was mixed with fat and oil splattered across the sky. Only his primordial spirit managed to escape by a hair's breadth. It did not escape. Ning Fan purposely let it go. Before that primordial spirit could escape far, it was captured by Ning Fan again and had its memories and soul searched. A moment later, Ning Fan casually killed the primordial spirit of the mountain of flesh. He could not hide the astonishment in his eyes. Sure enough, everything was as Ning Fan had guessed. It was Roshan's own idea to attack him. It was not the Luo clan's idea. This bastard ate the gift that the clan lord of the Luo clan gave him and wanted to use him as a cultivation base to express his goodwill to the dark races. That was why he attacked him. What shocked Ning Fan was not these things. With his intelligence, he had already guessed the whole story when he heard the words cultivation base. What shocked him was a huge piece of news in Roshan's memory. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was on the verge of Dao extinction. The specific reason was unknown. The godly Void Pavilion had already suppressed the news. However, there was still news about it. Master! Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of anxiety. He wanted to go to the Divine Tomb immediately to check on his master's current situation. There were very few people whom he could call his master. There were the Old Devil, Zido, and Ancient Chaos. All of them were people who had taught him many things. I must go back to the Divine Tomb as soon as possible. Of course, before I depart, there are still some troubles that I need to solve. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He suddenly let out a devil roar. That roar shook heaven and earth. It carried a supreme aura that easily tore countless cracks in the starry sky. Old monsters on the Shikong realm kept falling out of the cracks. After counting them carefully, there were actually 14 Shikong realm old monsters lurking in this place. These old monsters had arrived at the Chaos Devil Star a little later than Roshan. Similarly, They wanted to use Ningfan as a cultivation base to advance their cultivation base. Roshan was not the only one who received the news about ancient chaos's impending death. Which first-rate force in the eastern heaven did not know about ancient chaos's impending death? This news could not be hidden at all. Before ancient chaos's death, no one really dared to kill Ningfan. However, there were plenty of people who dared to humiliate Ningfan a little to please the dark race. This was the best opportunity to befriend a secret race. Who would let it go? Eternal Ancient Sect, Soul Dharma Temple, Great Tool Immortal Sect, Violent Lightning Sword Sect. From the clan insignia on their robes, Ningfan roughly recognized their origins. There are really quite a number of forces who want to use me as a stepping stone. They even wear their clan insignia in such a proper manner. Are they afraid that no one will see them and they won't be able to pass the message to the dark race? My master isn't even dead yet and you guys are already looking for trouble. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Dark race? What a dark race. Today, I will dye the Chaos Devil Star with your blood. This will be a warning to the Eastern Heaven. Not good. This old devil Ning has triggered his killing intent. Leave now. Slashing the Shikong realm with a sword and shaking the starry sky with a roar. Even if this person isn't a thought fragment expert, he is not far from it. It has only been 100 years. How could this devil be so powerful? Damn it. If I knew that this devil is so powerful, I wouldn't have gotten involved in this mess. So what if he's a thought fragment expert? Which force among us doesn't have a thought fragment expert? Do you think he would dare to kill all of us? Why wouldn't he dare? There is nothing that I, Ningfan, would not dare to do. He would never show any mercy to his enemies. If you want to step on others, you must be prepared to fall into a bottomless abyss. This was the law of the cultivation world. Ningfan's body swayed and turned into a ray of golden light, disappearing from the spot. He then appeared in front of each of the Shikong realm old monsters and waved his Dao sword. With his current cultivation base that was comparable to an immortal venerate, killing a group of Shikong realm juniors was as easy as killing ants. Poochie poochie, the sound of swords piercing into flesh and blood could be heard continuously. Each of the Shikong realm experts died there without being able to escape. Baleful chi filled the entire starry sky. Countless low-grade cultivators were trembling in fear. They were frightened by such a terrifying and brutal scene. Each of the Shikong realm old monsters was a famous old ancestor. Each of them had the strength to destroy the starry sky. However, none of them could last more than one round in Ningfan's hands. They could not even escape. Fellow Taoist, please show mercy. A roar that was mixed with early thought fragmentation realm Dao sense came from a few starry skies away. A few breaths later, an old monster who was surrounded by sword light crossed the starry sky and arrived. He stared at Ningfan with bloodshot eyes. I'm too late. I'm still too late. Ningfan had already killed all the Shikong realm experts. His only disciple was also dead. At first, he thought that it was a chance to curry favor with the dark races. That was why he sent his disciple here to claim credit. However, he did not expect that he would end up kicking an iron plate and sending his disciple to his death. Good. That disciple was the sword cauldron that he had been cultivating for many years. He still had great use for him, but he was killed by Ningfan. Little Ningfan, today, I'm going to turn your chaotic Devil Star region into a river of blood. Before he could finish his sentence, he saw a ray of red light flashing and appearing in front of him. His eyes were filled with endless cold intent. In the face of that coldness, Breaking Thought's old monster actually shivered. What kind of baleful chi is this? How many experts has this young man killed to possess such baleful chi? Immortal Venerate 10,000 Ancient. This young man has killed Immortal Venerate 10,000 Ancient. How could this be? Poochie. Another ray of sword light flashed. A dignified early thought fragmenting realm expert was cut into half by Ningfan's sword before he could even announce his name. If you want to flatter the dark race, you can attack me. But if you are my enemy, then you must be prepared to die. Ning Fan suddenly let out a roar. The rainstorm that was filled with red light immediately swept across the starry space with the Chaos Devil Star as the center. His roar, along with the torrential rain, swept out madly towards the entire eastern sky. In the past, the Rain Ancestor had used the heaven-peering rain technique to cover the entire northern heaven with his divine sense, shocking countless immortal emperors. Even though Ning Fan already possessed the strength of an immortal venerable, he still could not cover the entire eastern heaven with his spirit sense. However, making his voice spread throughout the eastern heavens was something he could barely accomplish. Eternal Starfield, Eternal Sect. At this moment, the Eternal Ancient Sect was in chaos. Their late-stage shedding Void Realm Vice Sect Master had died in the Chaos Devil Star Field. The three patriarchs of the Eternal Antiquity Sect were all in the mid-thought-demolishing stage, and their faces were grim. I didn't expect that the people I sent to humiliate Ning Fan would be killed. I wonder who did it. Investigate. No matter who it is, anyone who dares to kill the Vice Sect Master of our Eternal Antiquity Sect must pay the price. Before they could finish their words, a roar that was filled with boundless baleful chi resounded from thousands of star regions away. That roar seemed to carry boundless baleful chi. With just a single roar, more than 10,000 disciples of the Eternal Antiquity Sect coughed out blood at the same time. Even the faces of the three thought-fragmenting old ancestors were flushed red. Their chi was greatly disrupted by that roar. If you want to flatter the dark race, you can attack me. However, if you are my enemy, then you must be prepared to die. If you are my enemy, then you must be prepared to die. Hiss. The three Eternal Antiquity Sect's patriarchs were so frightened that their faces turned pale. What kind of ability is this? What kind of cultivation base is this? He could actually transmit his voice from thousands of star regions away to this place. The might of a single roar could even make tens of thousands of disciples of a sect cough out blood. How is this possible? Chapter 957. What kind of cultivation could accomplish such a shocking thing? Could it be the 10,000 ancient immortal sovereign? This person claimed that his surname was Ning. Could it be that the person who let out that roar was actually Rain Lord Ning Fan? Could it be that the one who killed the Vice Sect Master was also Ning Fan? The Rain Deity Master's divine power was unfathomable. It made the three thought-shattering ancestors feel invincible. The Rain Deity Master's divine power was unfathomable. The Eternal Ancient Sect's Sect Master, who was at the late shedding Void Realm, trembled when he heard that roar. He was tongue-tied and could not help but ask with a trembling voice, Old Ancestor, it seems like the person who killed the Vice Sect Master is the Rain Immortal Monarch. Do you want to take revenge on him? Revenge? We should worry about whether the Rain Immortal Monarch will come and punish us. The power of this person's roar vaguely contained the might of an immortal venerable. 10,000 ancient immortal venerable, sigh, we can't afford to offend him. An ancient ancestor said bitterly. It was as if he had aged several hundred years in an instant. This old one has long said that we shouldn't participate in these mundane matters to avoid being burned by karma, yet you all just wouldn't listen. Sigh, isn't there a disaster now? Another ancestor, Eternal Time, complained. However, it was too late to say anything now. Who would have thought that Ning Fan actually had such a terrifying cultivation base? Blue Dao Planet, Blue Dao Sect. Ancestor Blue Dao's face was gloomy. Just now, the life token of the fourth elder that he had sent to the Chaos Demon Star had shattered. Who dares to kill an elder of my Blue Dao sect? Enraged, Patriarch Blue Dao's mid-thought-demolishing energy surged like a raging sea, causing the entire starry sky to tremble. Could the culprit be Ning Fan? I didn't expect that he would lose an elder of the sect before he could curry favor with the dark race. I can't let this matter rest. This time, I will personally take him down and offer him to the dark race. Ancestor Blue Dao waved his hand, and the star plate appeared in his hand. He turned into a streak of blue light and shot out of the Blue Dao star. Unfortunately, before he could get very far, A demonic roar pierced through countless galaxies and descended like the might of the heavens. With a single tremor, he was blasted out of the starry sky. Like a meteor, he plummeted toward the Blue Dao planet, creating a huge crater on the planet with a loud bang. The torrential rain seemed to have locked onto the Blue Dao sect and swept toward the planet. The mortals on the planet were unharmed, but the 70,000 cultivators of the Blue Dao sect were all locked onto by the roar. All of them coughed out a mouthful of blood and suffered varying degrees of injuries. If you are my enemy, then you must be prepared to die. If you become my enemy, then you must be prepared to die. What kind of divine ability is this? Very far, very far. It was Ning Fan. What exactly is the cultivation base of that little brat? He actually managed to arrive here with a roar from billions of galaxies away. Could it be 10,000 ancient immortal venerables? A sense of astonishment rose in Blue Dao's heart. If Ning Fan was just a junior, he would still dare to step on him to curry favor with the dark race. However, if Ning Fan was an eternal immortal venerate, even if he had 9 lives, he would not dare to provoke an eternal immortal venerate. Immediately send someone to the chaotic Devil Star and offer half of our sect's wealth to the Rain Immortal Sovereign as an apology. I hope it's not too late. Old Ancestor Blue Dao said with a pale face. Revenge is just nonsense. I should think about how to endure the Rain Immortal Sovereign's wrath. If the Immortal Venerate is enraged, the Blue Dao sect will be destroyed in an instant. Great Weapon Immortal Sect on the Great Weapon Star. Old Ancestor Great Weapon, who was refining an 8th Nirvana nascent heaven magic treasure, immediately coughed out blood and fainted after Ning Fan's roar. His half-step thought fragmentation realm cultivation base was simply too weak. Dharma Soul Temple on the Dharma Soul planet. Half of the Dharma Soul Master's Dharma body was destroyed by Ning Fan's roar. His cultivation base was also at the half-step thought fragmentation realm. Violent Lightning Sword Sect on the Violent Lightning Star. In this sect, the violent lightning sword fire that had been accumulated for millions of years was dispersed by Ning Fan's roar and extinguished in the boundless devil rain. Old Ancestor Violent Lightning, who was cultivating in the sword fire, spurted out blood due to the backlash. He was shocked and bewildered. With his early thought fragmentation realm cultivation base, he was actually severely injured by Ning Fan's roar. Eastern Divine Sect, Supreme Profound Sect, Devil River Valley. A total of 14 sects were shocked by Ning Fan's roar on this day. Other than these 14 sects, the others were not affected by it. No innocent people were harmed. Today, there were a total of 14 Shikong cultivators who followed behind the mountain of flesh. However, these 14 sects were not the only ones who wanted to take action against him. Ning Fan believed that there must be other sects and forces in Eastern Heaven who wanted to please the dark race and step on him. However, they just did not have the time to do so. After letting out a roar, Ning Fan dispersed the rain technique and sent a message to Immortal Lowly and the others. Then, he directly took out the star compass that would take him to the Godly Void Pavilion and left through the starry sky. No matter how many people wanted to step on him, he was not afraid. There was only one thing that worried him, and that was the matter of ancient Chaos Dao extinction. That was his master. Since his master was about to die, how could his disciple not be by his side? He must go and have a look. Otherwise, he would not be able to set his mind at ease. Since he would have to go to the Godly Void Pavilion sooner or later, he might as well depart now. Ning Fan did not conceal his qi. Instead, he let it fly freely in the starry sky. If anyone wants to step on him along the way, they can just follow his qi and step on him. This time, whoever dares to step on him will die. Second passing of golden light. In the starry sky, the golden light that Ning Fan had turned into was rampaging. Since he did not conceal his aura force, the aura force of the piercing golden light shook heaven and earth. On the way back to Eastern Heaven from the passage of Brutal Flash, Ning Fan had already absorbed the power of the void-piercing stone. The level of the piercing golden light had already broken through to the second passing of Dao. The speed of the piercing golden light was slightly faster than ordinary second tribulation immortal venerables. It's Ningfan's chi. In the starry sky, on an abandoned cultivation planet, an early thought fragmentation realm, one-eyed burly man suddenly opened his eyes. With a wave of his hand, he took out a black compass that was beeping. It was a locating compass that he had specially made in order to please the dark race. He had once tried to get a strand of Ningfan's hair and placed it inside the compass. As long as Ningfan was within its sensing range, he would be able to accurately locate him using the compass. I initially wanted to go to the chaotic Devil Star. I didn't expect to meet Ningfan on the way. 345 million li to the south of the Qian position. The one-eyed burly man located Ningfan's coordinates. Then, he suddenly stood up and dashed in that direction with a flash. In just a few breaths, he saw Ningfan, who had turned into a golden light and was rushing towards him. It's Ningfan. But why is his traveling light so terrifying? The one-eyed burly man was quite surprised. However, when he thought of the various benefits of being connected to the dark race, he stopped thinking about it. Facing the golden light, he directly shook his body and turned into a giant that was as large as a cultivation planet. He stretched out his 5 fingers, as if he wanted to grab Ningfan along with the starry sky in his palm. The strength of the giant's grip was enough to crush a star. Immediately, countless abandoned cultivation planets crumbled under the tremendous force. Ningfan's eyes flashed with cold light while he was advancing. How could he not know the intention of this man? Without saying a word, he directly summoned a ray of purple light and slashed at the giant. In just a single strike, the giant's body, which was as large as a cultivation planet, was directly cut into 2 by Ningfan. His primordial spirit was also destroyed. Blood rained down on the entire starry sky while his baleful chi soared into the sky. Another ray of purple light flashed. The giant's head flew high up into the sky and kept shrinking until it returned to its normal size. Then, it was taken away by Ningfan. The first one. Ningfan pulled out a Tao thread of the Tao law of rain from the one-eyed burly man's head and directly pierced it with his hand. Ningfan did not even stop for a moment. After killing the one-eyed burly man, he kept the memory-severing Tao sword and continued advancing. His indifferent expression made it seem as if killing the memory-severing old monster was just a trivial matter. Ningfan left the starry sky behind him. Layers of star mist were directly penetrated by him. Some abandoned cultivation planets which were blocking his way were directly smashed into pieces by Ningfan. Using his physical body to smash a cultivation planet was enough to show how powerful Ningfan's momentum was. Those old monsters who did not want to get into trouble had already fled far away when they saw Ningfan's ferocious aura. None of them dared to look for trouble with Ningfan. Those who wanted to curry favor with the dark races had not sensed the danger yet. Each of them was like a moth flying into a flame, chasing after Ningfan continuously. In the starry sky, an old man with white eyebrows was holding a rein in his hand. He was dragging 12 cultivation planets and dashing madly in the starry sky. The fact that he could drag the cultivation planets along with him was enough to prove how terrifying his abilities were. The aura force of a mid-thought fragmentation realm expert further proved that this old man was strong enough to make the starry sky tremble. I can't be wrong. It's Ningfan's chi. This young man is really pitiful. Even though his innate potential is not bad, he is just a junior after all. Once he loses the protection of his master, Ancient Chaos, he will be beaten up by all the old monsters in the eastern sky. Who asked you to offend the secret race? The old man with white eyebrows sneered while advancing. All of a sudden, he stopped moving forward. Instead, he stopped moving and headed towards a certain direction in the starry sky. It's getting closer. It's Ningfan's chi. Far away, the golden light had just flashed. Although it was still very far away, the old man with white eyebrows directly displayed his ability and grabbed the 12 cultivation planets behind him. All of a sudden, 12 gigantic star soul nets were pulled out from the cultivation planets and scattered in the direction where the golden light came from. It was as if he wanted to trap the entire starry sky within the nets. I will use the starry sky as my net. A fish like you won't be able to escape from my hands. Before he could finish shouting the word palm, the old man's expression changed drastically. He saw a ray of purple light piercing through the starry sky. In the next moment, the 12 gigantic starry sky nets that he summoned were cut into countless pieces. Before he could react, another ray of purple light flashed by and directly cut the 12 cultivation planets behind him into two halves. A deafening rumble shook the heavens. Then, the third ray of purple light flashed by and went straight for the top of the old man's head, causing his soul to almost leave his body. How would he still dare to catch Ning Fan? He was so frightened that he turned around and fled. What kind of purple light was that? How could its power be so terrifying? If he is hit by that purple light, even if he is a late thought fragmentation realm expert, he will certainly die. He did not even see Ning Fan's shadow clearly, but he could already sense the danger of certain death. How is this possible? How can Ning Fan be so powerful? He did not even have the time to run away. The head of the old man with white eyebrows suddenly flew high up into the sky with a horrified expression. An arrow of blood spurted out from his neck. Just as his primordial spirit was about to escape from his physical body, another ray of purple light flashed by and cut his primordial spirit into two, the second one. Ning Fan took away another head. His tone was filled with ferocity that he had not heard for many years. The evil nature in his blood was awakened once again. Ancient Chaos was not dead yet. He was still alive. Whoever dares to humiliate Ancient Chaos lineage would have to pay the price. The third one. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Ning Fan killed the old ancestor of the Heaven Eye sect at the border of the immense forest star region. The fourth one. After the time it takes for another incense stick to burn, Ning Fan killed old monster Dong Yang who was blocking his way in the eastern sun star region. The fifth one, the sixth one, the seventh one. As Ning Fan continued to kill those who stood in his way, the number of heads in his hands increased. When he counted them carefully, he already had 22 heads. Those who stood in his way when he was flying in the golden light were at least thought-breaking old monsters. However, all of them were killed by him. These heads belonged to thought-breaking old monsters. They still carried the monstrous baleful chi of those who had fallen not long ago. After killing 22 thought-breaking old monsters in a row, his journey finally returned to peace. There were no longer any people who stood in his way. In the Eastern Heaven Immortal world, the number of thought-breaking old monsters was no more than 1,000. Those who came to trample on Ning Fan were also only a small number. After killing 22 of them, there were not many left. Thought-breaking old monsters were not cabbages that could be found anywhere. Ning Fan had killed so many of them in a single day. If the news spreads out, it would certainly shake the entire Eastern Heaven. Those who want to curry favor with the people of the Dark Race would have to weigh their own strength first. What Ning Fan wanted to do was to intimidate those old monsters with ulterior motives. He wanted to tell everyone that the descendants of Ancient Chaos were not to be bullied. The two words Ancient Chaos were not to be insulted unless Ancient Chaos or Ning Fan died. For several hours, Ning Fan did not encounter anyone who stood in his way. His speed was too fast and his baleful chi was too fierce. Wherever he went, countless cultivators in the Eastern Heaven were shocked. Many of the old monsters of the Eastern Sky were terrified when they saw the 22 human heads that were connected to the Dao lines behind Ning Fan. Occasionally, there were a few old monsters who wanted to attack Ning Fan. However, after seeing those human heads, they quietly withdrew their killing intent and retreated helplessly. Terrifying. It's really too terrifying. Those 22 heads were actually the heads of thought-breaking old monsters. Rain Immortal Monarch. I can't be wrong. This person is the Rain Immortal Monarch. What a terrifying baleful chi. One of the thought-breaking old monsters walked out of the stone chamber and looked at the golden light that was flying across the starry sky in horror. After hesitating for a while, he quietly kept a black compass. Initially, he also wanted to step on Ning Fan's head to express his goodwill to the Dark Races. However, after witnessing Ning Fan's terrifying strength with his own eyes, he quietly changed his mind. Among those heads, there is actually the head of the Profound Earth Old Monster. Isn't that Profound Earth Old Monster a peak thought-breaking realm cultivator? Moreover, I heard that he managed to survive in the hands of an immortal venerable. How could he be killed by the rain immortal monarch? One of the thought-breaking old monsters who brushed past Ningfan was greatly shocked. Could it be that the rain immortal monarch had already broken through to the immortal venerable realm? Otherwise, how could he kill the profound earth old monster? The tremors caused by Ningfan's return were radiating across the entire eastern heaven at an astonishing speed. However, Ningfan was not concerned about all of these. Rumble. When he was 1/3 of the distance from the godly void pavilion to the star path, a loud bang suddenly resounded in the starry sky in front of him. Then, dark rays of light that blotted out the sky and covered the earth continuously emerged from the void. In an instant, they condensed into a giant palm and directly slammed down on Ningfan. Wherever the giant palm passed, the starry sky was directly torn apart and all the stars were shattered. The power of that palm had actually reached the level of an attack of an immortal venerable immortal ancient. Other than thought-breaking cultivators, there is also an immortal venerable immortal ancient blocking my path? Ningfan stopped his movement for the first time. He did not underestimate the incoming person. Instead, he bent his finger and pointed at the giant palm. Immediately, a ray of purple light ruthlessly slashed at the palm shadow. When the two of them collided, it immediately caused a destructive wave of collapse that spread across the entire starry sky. Boom, boom, boom. In just a short moment, the purple light had already clashed with the palm shadow for more than 10,000 times. When the impact of the collision reached its peak, the purple light was finally repelled. As for the palm shadow in the starry sky, it was also destroyed by the purple light, turning into countless dark rays that scattered. In the dark rays that scattered in all directions, the figure of a fat old man with big ears gradually became clear. He walked out of the collapsing wave and looked at Ningfan and the 22 heads behind him with a solemn expression. I didn't expect that the Rain Immortal Monarch is not as weak as the rumors say. You should be proud of yourself for being able to kill so many broken thoughts and withstand a palm strike from me. Unfortunately, you have offended the dark race. So don't blame me for being merciless. The large-eared old man did not have the intention to talk nonsense with Ningfan at all. Instead, he made another move and pressed his hand against the starry sky. All of a sudden, the entire starry sky was split into two. Flickering stars emerged from the crack in the starry sky. There were more than 300,000 of them. They were densely packed in the starry sky, making it look extremely spectacular. Starteknita. Ningfan's eyes narrowed slightly. This large-eared old man had formed 300,000 natal stars. Not only could these stars help him heal his injuries, but they also seemed to have the power to kill his enemies. It was very strange. Don't worry. I won't kill you. I will only beat you until you are half dead. After all, that master of yours is not completely dead yet. Star Luo sword. The large-eared old man waved his hand again. 300,000 natal stars instantly turned into 300,000 rays of flickering sword light. They slashed at Ningfan in all directions, cutting off all his escape routes. A zero tribulation immortal venerable, huh? It seems like you have just advanced to the immortal venerable realm not long ago. Ningfan's expression was calm. He treated the 300,000 rays of sword light as if they were nothing. With his current strength, it was enough for him to defeat a newly advanced immortal venerable even without using the wild heavenly Tao soul. Burn! Ningfan opened his mouth and breathed out a ray of black-red flame. As the flame flashed, it immediately turned into a boundless sea of fire, directly engulfing half of the starry sky. The temperature of the surrounding rose rapidly. When the flames burned, the sound of wind and thunder that was stirred up was even more deafening. Before the 300,000 rays of sword light could hurt Ningfan, they were devoured by the boundless sea of fire and burned into nothingness. The large-eared old man's expression changed slightly when his technique was broken. If he was not mistaken, the grade of Ningfan's devil flame had actually reached the 11th aberration realm. Moreover, for some unknown reason, the offensive power of Ningfan's devil flame was far beyond the 11th aberration realm. It was even comparable to some 12th aberration realm flames. Many people say that Rain Lord is good at controlling clouds and summoning rain. I didn't expect that you also know how to play with fire. Coincidentally, I am also quite experienced in playing with fire. Let's see whose fire technique is better. Fire. The large-eared old man waved his hand. Surging silver flames immediately flew out from his sleeves, turning into countless silver fire phoenixes that flew towards Ning Fan's sea of fire. His flames were clearly at the peak of the 11th aberration realm. They were only a step away from attaining the 12th aberration realm. This large-eared old man actually wanted to compete with Ning Fan in terms of fire. However, he did not expect that his action would provoke the arrogance of Ning Fan's devil flame. Ning Fan's devil flame had merged with the fire attribute of the fire of misfortune beast. It had also inherited the arrogance of the fire of misfortune beast. The fire of misfortune beast was unparalleled under the heavens. Who would dare to compete with a flame of the same level? Who would be qualified to compete with it? Ning Fan flicked his finger and the fire of misfortune beast that blotted out the sky and covered the earth actually turned into several ferocious-looking beasts of misfortune. Then, they clashed with the countless silver fire phoenixes. As soon as the silver phoenixes that were formed from the flames saw the fire of misfortune beast approaching them, they actually felt an instinctive fear. Even the sea of fire began to tremble. After exchanging blows, the silver phoenixes quickly collapsed under the corrosion of the fire of misfortune beast. In the blink of an eye, the entire sea of fire was devoured by the fire of misfortune beast. Puff! The large-eared old man immediately spurted out a mouthful of blood. His expression was filled with shock. It was just a single exchange of blows, but the flame that he had painstakingly cultivated for many years was actually devoured by Ning Fan's flame. Not a single trace of it could be retrieved. Ning Fan did not defeat him but directly devoured him. How is this possible? If Ning Fan was just defeated, the large-eared old man would certainly not be so shocked. He had never heard of an incident where a second-step cultivator would devour the flames of the other party during a battle of magic power. What kind of flame was that? How could it be so domineering? It actually took away the large-eared old man's right to use his flame in just a single exchange. Moreover, if the large-eared old man did not notice it, the grade of Ning Fan's devil flame had actually improved slightly after devouring his flame. It was slightly approaching the level of the 12 abstinence realm. Devouring other people's flames actually allowed Ning Fan to directly advance to the next level. This isn't good. This man's devil flame is too difficult to deal with. It's not easy to deal with him. Forget it. It's really not worth it to fight such an expert to the death just to please the dark race. Why don't I retreat? Even though the large-eared old man hated Ning Fan for snatching his flame, he was even more fearful of Ning Fan's devil flame. After thinking for a while, he actually chose a direction and directly retreated from the battlefield. Don't you think it's a little too late to leave now? Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. Not to mention that this person was just a newly advanced immortal venerable, even a first tribulation immortal venerable or a second tribulation immortal venerable would have to pay the price if they dare to step on him. Ning Fan lifted his foot and stepped on the starry sky. The sea of flames that stretched across the starry sky immediately turned into a ferocious gigantic beast that looked similar to the adversity beast. With a flash, he flew onto the back of the fire beast. Then he activated his ability and chased after the large-eared old man. Humph, arrogant brat. I'm just slightly fearful of you. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? As an immortal venerable, the large-eared old man naturally had his own pride. Being chased by Ning Fan, he actually flew into a rage out of humiliation. He turned his hand and took out an ancient black talisman, directly casting it behind him. As soon as the black talisman rose into the sky, it immediately combusted without any fire and produced traces of black smoke. The amount of black smoke was not much. Even though it was moving towards Ning Fan, it gave him a sense of danger. Vaguely, Ning Fan could actually see the flowing trajectory of the Tao of Darkness within the black smoke. So that's how it is. Is this black smoke an attack of the Tao of Darkness? Ning Fan smiled coldly. The third type of yin-yang that he cultivated was the dark yin-yang. With his strength that was comparable to an immortal venerable, he could more or less display a trace of the power of the Tao of Darkness by borrowing the power of the dark yin-yang. Ning Fan was not sure if he could defeat an immortal emperor. However, he was confident that he could easily control the Tao of Darkness of a zero-tribulation immortal venerable. Only the power that could control the Tao of others and their divine abilities was worthy of being called the power of the Tao of Darkness. Being able to activate the power of the Tao of Darkness was the strength of the 27 yin-yang techniques of the chaotic loops art. Get lost. Ning Fan activated the power of the dark yin-yang and let out a devil roar that shook the Tao of Darkness at the incoming black smoke. That roar was too shocking. It actually caused the Tao of heaven and earth to shift slightly. Then, something that the large-eared old man did not expect happened. The black smoke that was charging at Ning Fan suddenly went out of control. It actually changed its direction and rolled towards him. Being caught off guard, half of the large-eared old man's body was engulfed by the black smoke. The flesh and blood of the places that the black smoke touched immediately scattered, revealing his white bones. He looked extremely miserable. The power of the Tao of Darkness. How is this possible? The large-eared old man sucked in a cold breath. He did not expect Ning Fan to have such a heaven-defying power like the power of the Tao of Darkness. One should know that even among Immortal Emperor Realm experts, there were very few who could comprehend the power of the Tao of Darkness. However, Ning Fan did it. The large-eared old man had secretly relied on the Dark Clan before. With the help of the Dark Clan, he barely managed to break through to the Eternal Immortal Venerable Realm. Even though he was not a cultivator of the Dark Clan, most of his divine abilities were related to darkness. He did not expect Ning Fan to have the power of the Tao of Darkness, which could almost suppress all of his divine abilities. In that case, what could he use to fight against Ning Fan? The only thing he could do was to run. Damn it! Damn it! If he knew that Ning Fan was so powerful, he would not have come looking for trouble with him. Now, it was too late to say anything. I should run away first. While the large-eared old man was running away, he summoned the stars in the sky to heal his injuries. He had 300,000 stars in his body. His flesh and blood that were devoured by the black smoke were regenerating at an extremely fast speed. His injuries were also recovering rapidly. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a cold light. Even if the large-eared old man was just a zero-tribulation immortal venerable, it would not be easy to kill him if he managed to fully recover from his injuries. He pointed a finger in front of him. Purple light flashed and thousands of purple sword shadows appeared in front of the large-eared old man. The large-eared old man was in a hurry to run for his life. He almost unleashed 120% of his usual strength. His body rolled forward and black light shot out from his body. Like a meat bullet, he directly knocked away all the sword shadows that were blocking his way. However, his speed was still slightly slower because of the obstruction of the sword shadows. Ning Fan managed to catch up to him. Devour! As soon as Ning Fan uttered the word, devour, indifferently, the ferocious beast beneath his feet directly opened its mouth and swallowed the black meat bullet into its stomach. After that, the large-eared old man's miserable cries kept coming out from the belly of the beast. A moment later, a loud bang was heard. A fiery hole exploded in the belly of the beast. At the same time, the large-eared old man scrambled out of the beast's stomach like a charcoal man. His chi was unprecedentedly weak. That was close. If it wasn't because he had used his trump card at the last moment, he would have most likely been burned to death by the flames of the beast. However, after using his trump card, his chi became even weaker. He did not even have 5% of confidence in escaping from Ning Fan's hands. Without any hope of escaping, the only thing he could do was to beg for mercy. Rain Lord, please listen to me. I regret it. I really regret it. Please spare my life on account of the fact that it wasn't easy for me to cultivate the Tao. Unfortunately, if Ning Fan had the intention to kill, why would he care about others begging for mercy? In a flash, he appeared within 3 zhang of the large-eared old man. He waved his Tao sword and pierced it into the large-eared old man's dandan. If it was before, the large-eared old man would have plenty of ways to withstand this sword attack. However, his chi was now unprecedentedly weak. He did not even have the time to dodge the attack. His dantian was directly pierced by Ning Fan's sword and his primordial spirit was crushed. A dignified and newly advanced immortal venerated realm was actually killed by Ning Fan in the starry sky. After killing the large-eared old man, Ning Fan did not cut off his head. Instead, he directly pierced his physical body along with those human heads and hung them on the rain line. After all, it was the physical body of an immortal venerated realm expert. He could give it to the Earth Devil or Iron Crow to possess. It would be a waste to chop off his head as it would destroy the integrity of his physical body. Dragging the heads of 22 thought-fragmenting realm experts and the corpse of an immortal venerated realm expert, Ning Fan sped towards the godly void pavilion. Along the way, he killed many people. Moreover, the people he killed were all experts who stood at the peak of the four heavens. Thus, the baleful chi he carried was naturally extremely dense. Due to the short amount of time, it did not have enough time to dissipate. As a result, wherever he went, the starry sky would be dyed with a sky-high bloody light that did not disperse for a long time. The path of stars that he passed by was dyed into a path of blood by the bloody light. As a result, when the cultivators he met later saw the path of blood in the starry sky, they all fled as if they were avoiding a snake or a scorpion. They did not dare to get close to it. Terrifying. It's really too terrifying. Could it be the corpse of an immortal venerated realm expert that was hung on the rope by the Rain Lord? There were even many old monsters who recognized the identity of that immortal venerated realm expert. This large-eared elderly man was none other than a new immortal venerated realm expert in the Eastern Heaven in recent years, Old Ancestor De Yun. Who would have thought that Old Ancestor De Yun would be killed by the Rain Lord after painstakingly breaking through to the immortal venerated realm? Since the Rain Lord could even kill Old Ancestor De Yun, he should at least be an immortal venerated realm expert. 100 years ago, the Rain Lord had just risen to fame in the Eastern Heaven. 100 years later, he actually had the cultivation base of an immortal venerated realm expert. This matter was truly unbelievable. Ning Fan sped all the way. A day later, he finally arrived at the place where the godly void pavilion was located, the Eastern Sea Star region. As soon as he set foot in the Eastern Sea Star region, countless cultivators surrounded him. Each of them looked at Ning Fan with eyes filled with deep respect and fear. They had already received the news that the Rain Immortal Monarch, Ning Fan, was about to arrive at the godly void pavilion. They came to welcome him without any ill intentions. When he returned to the Eastern Sea Star region, there were actually people who specially welcomed him. Compared to the past, Ning Fan's treatment was obviously different. I am Yun Lei. Under the orders of the Divine and Void Emperors, I have come here to welcome the Rain Lord to the Divine Tomb. It has been 100 years since we last met. Fellow Taoist seems to be even more elegant than before. An elderly man in silver robes slowly walked out from the crowd. His body was enshrouded in lightning light. He cupped his fists at Ning Fan politely. This elderly man in silver robes was called Yun Lei. He had the cultivation base of the second eternal tribulation. In the past, when Ning Fan entered the Sea of Mist, he had met Ning Fan once. At that time, he did not know Ning Fan's identity. Today, however, he knew. Immortal venerated Cloud Thunder's eyes scanned across Ning Fan imperceptibly. Then, he glanced at the corpse of the venerated immortal behind Ning Fan. He could not help but suck in a cold breath. He had the cultivation base of the second eternal tribulation. However, even for him, it was extremely difficult to kill a newly advanced immortal venerated immortal. Since Ning Fan was able to kill Old Ancestor De Yun, his strength should not be underestimated. As he thought of this, immortal venerated Cloud Thunder's expression became more polite. Immortal venerated Cloud Thunder, is it? Ning Fan was slightly stunned. Then he recalled this person. In the past, when he entered the bottom layer of the Sea of Mist and formed his spirit wheel in the abode of the Eastern Demon Ancestor, This immortal venerated cloud thunder was cultivating in seclusion in the 8th layer of the Sea of Mist. He had even exchanged a few pleasantries with him. In the past, when Ning Fan faced Yun Lei, he had to conceal his cultivation base in order to have the right to talk to him as an equal. Today, he truly had the right to talk to Yun Lei as an equal. It has been many years since we last met. Fellow Taoist Qi seems to have improved a lot compared to the past. Yun Lei's tone was polite. Ning Fan naturally would not be arrogant. He held Yu Xian's hand and slightly cupped his fists at Yun Lei while replying politely. The way he addressed Ning Fan as fellow Taoist was filled with confidence. Chapter 958. Other than immortal venerable Cloud Thunder, there were quite a number of people here whom Ning Fan knew. Bone immortal Lord Jun Changdong, Moon immortal Lord Yu Han, slaying immortal Lord Su Dao. 800 years ago, these outstanding geniuses still dared to compete with Ning Fan. 100 years later, these people were only qualified to stand at the side and listen to the conversation between Ning Fan and Yun Lei respectfully like juniors. They did not have the right to interrupt. 100 years' time did not allow their cultivation bases to improve by much. Ning Fan, on the other hand, was already a strong expert of the ancient times. He could destroy thoughts and kill immortal venerables. He could shake the eastern heaven and make the godly void pavilion come out to welcome him. In comparison, Jun Changdong and the others more or less wore complicated expressions. Perhaps they would never be able to catch up to Ning Fan's footsteps in this lifetime. The geniuses of the same generation as him back then were now people that he could only look up to. In the future, it would be difficult for him to cross paths with them. It's been 100 years since we last met. Does Senior Ning still remember the agreement with my Luo family? Suddenly, an elderly man with an amiable face walked out from the group. He cupped his fists respectfully towards Ning Fan and asked. This person was none other than the 9th elder of the godly void pavilion, the clan master of the Luo clan, Luo Shi. 100 years ago, Luo Shi was still in a position where Ning Fan had to look up to him. 100 years later, however, Luo Shi had to address Ning Fan as senior instead. Luo Shi was respectful on the surface, but he sighed endlessly in his heart. Speaking of which, the Luo clan had been searching for Ning Fan for many years. Battle King's body was getting weaker day by day and he was almost at his limit. If Ning Fan doesn't return soon or if he still fails to cultivate the 4th transformation of the War God art after he returns, perhaps Battle King would not be able to escape death after a few more years. All these years, the Luo clan had been unable to locate Ning Fan's whereabouts. This made Luo Shi feel more and more hopeless about finding Zhan Wang. Luo Shi knew that Ning Fan was a man who kept his promise. If he could master the 4th transformation of his battle arts, he would certainly come back to save the Battle King. The reason why he could not find Ning Fan after so long was probably because he could not attain the 4th transformation. That was why he did not show himself. Come to think of it, it made sense. Other than the Battle King Luo Ho, no one else in the Luo clan had successfully cultivated the 4th transformation of battle arts. Thus, it was not strange that Ning Fan could not cultivate it, was it? Just when the Luo clan was almost certain that the Battle King could not be saved, Ning Fan, who had disappeared for 100 years, actually appeared. Moreover, he even appeared in front of the cultivators of the eastern sky in a peerless manner. 10,000 ancient immortal venerable. There's no mistaking it. Facing Ning Fan at such a close distance, Luo Shi actually felt as if he was facing the heavenly might. His heart could not stop pounding. This kind of feeling would only appear when he is facing an ancient immortal venerate. After not seeing him for 100 years, Ning Fan had actually become an eternal immortal venerate. Luo Shi had a smile on his face, but his heart was filled with shock. Although he had received the news a long time ago, it was only at this moment that he truly believed the truth. 22 heads and 1 immortal venerable corpse. Not only did Ning Fan become an immortal venerate of 10,000 ancient times, but he was probably one of the extremely powerful ones. Otherwise, how could he kill an immortal venerate? After feeling shocked, Luo Shi naturally did not dare to be arrogant. Instead, he respectfully addressed Ning Fan as senior. Ninth Elder, rest assured that I will definitely accomplish what I promised the Luo family. Ning Fan politely replied to Luo Shi. With his strength, he didn't need to be polite to an early thought-fragmenting cultivator. However, the Luo family had done him a favor, so he naturally wouldn't be rude to Luo Shi. Luo Shi's cloudy old eyes immediately lit up. Judging from Ning Fan's tone, it seems like he is very confident in saving the Combat Lord. Could it be that he has already cultivated the fourth transformation of the War God art? His heart, which was already filled with despair, immediately became overjoyed. The Combat Lord is saved. However, Luo Shi also heard that the reason why Ning Fan came to the Godly Void Pavilion this time was because he received the news that Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was on the verge of death. Thus, he was eager to go to the Divine Tomb to see his master. Today, the Divine Void Emperor and the Divine Void Emperor were also in the Divine Tomb, waiting to meet Ning Fan. Thus, it was inconvenient for Luo Shi to ask Ning Fan to go to the Luo family immediately to save the Combat Lord. Thinking of this, Luo Shi did not say any nonsense. He just cupped his fists towards Ning Fan with a solemn expression and returned to the group. The matter here is settled. The Luo family will be waiting for Senior's arrival. Don't worry. In Ning Fan's eyes, Luo Shi's respectful attitude made him sigh with emotion. The senior Luo of the past actually considered himself as a junior now. It more or less made him sigh with emotion. Speaking of which, why didn't I see I? With her personality, it's impossible for her to not show up once she knows that I'm coming to the Godly Void Pavilion. Ning Fan casually asked Venerated Cloud Thunder, who was standing beside him. He learned from Yun Lei that the little demoness was currently in the Divine Tomb. Thus, he did not ask any further. We are well aware of the purpose of fellow Taoist Ning's visit. Why don't you follow me to the Divine Tomb now? Venerated Cloud Thunder said after Ning Fan and Luo Shi had finished their conversation. Thank you for leading the way, fellow Taoist. Ning Fan kept the venerated immortal corpse behind him. Then, he casually slashed out a Dao sword which emitted a purple light and destroyed the heads of those people. His casual action, however, made the scalps of many second-step-old monsters numb. Ning Fan naturally did not have the mood to care about other people's feelings. Instead, he frowned and looked at the starry sky of the Eastern Ocean Star region. With his senses after cultivating the Yin-Yang Rain technique, he could vaguely sense the chi of the experts in the Eastern Ocean Star region even without using the rain technique. After the Sin Luo chaos ended, there were not many 10,000 ancient realm old monsters left in the Godly Void Pavilion. In the Eastern Ocean Star region, other than Yun Lei, there were 9 other chi that had reached the 10,000 ancient realm. This included the aura of Quasi-Saint Xiang Bozi, the aura of Immortal Emperor Shinsu, and even the aura of Plague King LV Fei. What made Ning Fan feel solemn was that the chi of these 10,000 ancient realm experts were more or less weak. It seemed like all of them had injuries on their bodies. All of you can leave now. I'll just bring Rain Lord to the Divine Tomb. Immortal Venerable Cloud Thunder dismissed the welcoming team and went straight to the Divine Tomb with Ning Fan. Both of them were powerful cultivators. With their speed, they only spent tens of breaths to reach the Divine Tomb. As soon as they entered the first level of the Divine Tomb, Ning Fan's eyes immediately widened in disbelief. The first level of the Divine Tomb, which was bustling with activity in the past, had now become a wasteland. The earth tombs and heavenly tombs had collapsed in the ruins. The entire earth's crust was broken into countless pieces. There were still a few disciples of the Godly Void Pavilion stationed here. However, they were not there to cultivate. Instead, they were desperately setting up formations in an attempt to repair the broken earth tombs. What exactly happened inside the Divine Tomb? Why did the first level turn into a wasteland? What does this have to do with the news of ancient chaos approaching the end of his Tao? Many questions rose in Ning Fan's mind. He vaguely felt that his master's Tao extinction was not as simple as he imagined it to be. He looked at Yun Lei with a pleading look, but Yun Lei only smiled bitterly. Fellow Taoist, don't ask me. I don't know much about what happened in the tomb of the God of Sin. 10 years ago, The vision of a red sun shining over the sea appeared in the eastern sky. The upheaval of the tomb of the god of sin happened on that day. Many experts, including Patriarch Xiang Xiazi, entered the godly tomb to investigate, but they were all seriously injured, and the godly tomb was mostly destroyed. At that time, I was out on a mission and wasn't on the main planet, so I wasn't injured. I also became the only eternal ancient realm cultivator in the godly void pavilion. 10 years ago, in the eastern heavens red sun illuminating sea, all the 10,000-year-old monsters, including Xiang Bozi, were severely injured, and the divine tomb was reduced to ruins. Ning Fan's eyes became even more solemn. The intelligence gathered by Zhao Yukai and the others recorded the events of Eastern Heaven's red sun illuminating sea 10 years ago. However, in that intelligence, it only said that when the red sun shone over the sea, 4,000 babies of cultivation planets in the Eastern Heaven went missing. He did not expect such an incident to happen on that day. The incident in the divine tomb did not spread in the Eastern Heaven. Was it suppressed by the godly void pavilion? If fellow Taoist has any questions, you will naturally get your answers after you meet the two emperors. Yun Lei led Ning Fan all the way to the lowest level. When the cultivators of the godly void pavilion who were guarding the divine tomb saw Venerable Yun Lei, they naturally did not dare to stop them. The second level was also in ruins. The third level was also in a state of devastation. They walked all the way to the 6th level and Ning Fan arrived at the teleportation gate of the 7th level. When he felt the monstrous devil chi coming from the 7th level, he was instantly shocked. What a strong devil chi! What exactly happened in the divine tomb? Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly solemn. When he entered the divine tomb in the past, there was definitely no such strong devil chi here. Even with his current strength, he could faintly feel a sense of pressure from this devil chi. If he goes further down, the devil chi would probably be even denser. Fellow Taoist, be careful. The devil chi down there is very dense. The two emperors and a group of experts are currently on the 8th level. You will see them when you go down. Immortal Venerable Yun Lei and Ning Fan continued to descend to the 7th level. Then, something that shocked Ning Fan even more happened. The extent of the collapse of the 7th level was much more severe than the previous 6 levels. All the tomb palaces on the entire continent had collapsed. The undead spirits who used to live on the 7th level had all died. Not a single one of them could be found anymore. Frenzied and violent devil chi surged across the entire sky, forming a black storm. At the center of the storm, where the tectonic plates of the continent were the most severely damaged, there was a 10,000 zhang. Large black palm print firmly imprinted on the ground. That palm print seemed to be the culprit that caused the collapse of the 7th level and the annihilation of all the undead spirits. The terrifying aura force of that palm print was indescribable. It actually gave people a chill even though it was not cold. Even immortal Venerable Yun Lei did not dare to look at that palm print for too long. It was as if his entire body would be devoured by the devil chi in that palm print if he looked at it for too long. Who was it that destroyed the 7th level of the divine tomb with a single palm print? Ning Fan's expression was unprecedentedly grim. I don't know. Fellow Taoist, you must not get close to that palm print. Even though 10 years have passed, that palm print still faintly exudes the aura force of an ancient great devil. Unless you're an ancient devil, it's very difficult for you to withstand the devil chi of this level. Just as immortal Venerable Yun Lei reminded him, he saw Ning Fan directly flying towards the center of the palm print. He immediately became anxious. 10 years ago, something happened to the divine tomb. The Divine Void Emperor and the Divine Void Emperor brought their people to investigate the situation. However, they were defeated by a mysterious person in the 7th level with a single palm strike and caused the entire divine tomb to collapse crazily. Even though the power of that palm print 10 years ago had already dissipated, the devil might it contained was still monstrous. Unless one is an immortal king with a high cultivation base, he or she would definitely be severely injured if they get close to the palm print recklessly. Immortal Venerable Yun Lei himself did not dare to get close to the palm print. He also did not think that Ning Fan had the strength to do so. However, what happened next surprised him. Ning Fan was actually unscathed and he was walking towards the center of the palm print step by step. This young man, Immortal Venerable Yun Lei, took a deep breath. Only then did he realize that he seemed to have underestimated Ning Fan. It was very strong. It was just a palm print left behind by a mysterious expert 10 years ago. However, it gave off an undefeatable aura force that made one have to submit to it. The closer Ning Fan got to the center of the palm print, the more astonished he felt. When the devil chi that seemed to have a substantial form came into contact with his skin, it actually caused him to feel a stinging pain. One should know that Ning Fan was an ancient devil. Moreover, he was an ancient devil whose cultivation base had reached the 7th Nirvana realm. With his ancient devil cultivation base, he could already fight against a late Shikong Void Emperor. However, he could not withstand the devil chi of that palm at all. An ancient great devil. Ning Fan took a deep breath. After a long while, he finally uttered those 4 words. Those who could obtain such a title were at least people like Yin Mo and the Strange Eyeball, who could sweep away all the immortal emperors and quasi-saints during the Age of Chaos. The one who left this palm print was definitely an ancient great devil. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to possess such terrifying devil chi. However, how is this possible? Putting aside the 4 heavens and 9 worlds of the human race, there were also the 10 great secret clans. Perhaps, there were also ancient great cultivators. Other than the Spirit King Palace and the True Spirit Clan, there seemed to be another place of slumber in the demon race. Perhaps, there were also ancient great demons sleeping there. Only the devil race could not produce ancient great devils. Currently, Ning Fan had learned a lot about the history of the ancient era. In the past, Immortal Emperor Zhang Qing invaded the illusory world. During that battle, the land of the devil race was divided into 9 parts and became the 9 great devil abysses. The 9 devil ancestors were also suppressed. Since then, the devil race had lost its blood. It was difficult for them to produce any more devil ancestors. The chances of producing an immortal emperor devil lord had also greatly decreased. As time passed, the number of immortal emperors of the devil race decreased. They were no longer able to fight against the demon race and the human race at all. In the end, they completely sealed the ancient devil abyss and isolated themselves from the outside world. The devil race had obviously fallen to the point where it was difficult for immortal emperors to emerge. How could there still be an ancient great devil in this world? Could it be that the top few devil ancestors among the 9 devil ancestors had escaped from the suppression? This was the first possibility that came to Ning Fan's mind. On second thought, the evil well at the bottom of the tomb of the god of sin seemed to be connected to the place where great Emperor Mo Luo was suppressed. Could it be that the evil ancestor really escaped from the suppression and came to the tomb of the god of sin to make trouble? Even with his current cultivation base, he was unable to withstand the devil chi in the palm imprint for a long time. Thus, he had no choice but to quickly retreat to Yun Lei's side. Fellow cultivators' supernatural power can actually be so close to the palm print. Since the immortal Luo tribulation, my godly void pavilion has suffered heavy losses. There are only 2 immortal kings left, Xianbei and Lu Feng. Below the immortal emperor, I'm afraid only the 2 of them can be so close to the palm print. For fellow cultivator to be able to do this, Yun Lei admires you. I wonder if fellow Taoist has any interest in joining my divine void pavilion as a guest elder? When this immortal venerable cloud thunder saw how powerful Ning Fan's abilities were, he actually had the intention to recruit him. He wanted to recruit an immortal venerable expert for his godly void pavilion. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. He was just relying on the fact that the physical body of the ancient devil had left to get close to the palm imprint. If he were to rely on his own strength, he would not be able to get close to it even if he had the cultivation base of Jieshui. Can we talk about this later? I want to go to the bottom level and see Master first. Ning Fan's heart was filled with bitterness. He faintly felt that he was the one who had harmed ancient chaos and caused him to be on the verge of Tao extinction. He had once asked ancient chaos to help him guard the devil well. If great Emperor Mo Luo sends someone to pass through the devil well, he would kill them on his behalf. He was not sure if the incident of ancient chaos's Tao extinction was related to this matter. That palm imprint and that mysterious ancient great devil made Ning Fan's mind filled with countless guesses. However, he could not find an answer even after a long time. Seeing that Ning Fan had no intention to join the godly void pavilion for the time being, Yunlei did not force him. He continued to lead Ning Fan to the 8th floor. The undead spirits on the 8th floor were also completely wiped out. At the center of the continent of the 8th floor, there was also a 10,000 zhang palm imprint which caused all the continents to crumble. That palm imprint seemed to have directly penetrated through the 7th floor. Because its power was slightly weaker than the palm imprint on the 7th floor, it was still not to be underestimated. The outer edge of the palm imprint was the teleportation door that led to the 9th floor. At this moment, there were experts sitting outside the teleportation door. They were exerting all of their strength to suppress the devil chi that kept leaking out from the teleportation door. There were Great Emperor Shen Kong, Void Sovereign, Immortal King Xian Bei and some other immortal venerables. All of them had injuries on their bodies, but they were still trying their best to suppress the teleportation door. LV Feng, on the other hand, was not here. Seeing Ning Fan and Yunlei's arrival, everyone's eyes flickered. They scanned Ning Fan with their spirit sense and more or less revealed astonishment on their faces. The ones who were the most astonished were the two emperors, Shen Kong and Yunlei, especially Great Emperor Shen Kong, who had a grudge against Ning Fan. Even with his immortal emperor realm, he could not hide the astonishment in his eyes. It's Ning Fan. There's no doubt about it. It has only been 100 years, but that young man has actually reached this stage and obtained the cultivation base of a 10,000 ancient realm expert. The 10,000 ancient realm experts were divided into 9 tribulations. Those below the 3rd tribulation were immortal venerables, while those below the 6th tribulation were immortal kings. Normally, immortal venerables, immortal kings and immortal emperors all belonged to the same great cultivation realm. All of them would address each other as fellow Taoist. Even when facing some quasi-saints, they would also address each other as fellow Taoist. Only when facing ancient great cultivators would a 10,000 ancient realm expert be willing to lower their heads and address them as senior. The current Ning Fan had the strength of a 10,000 ancient realm expert. Even if he was just an immortal venerables, he was still qualified to be treated as a peer by Great Emperor Shen Kong and be valued. 100 years later, the young man who was a junior 100 years ago has actually become my friend. Great Emperor Shen Kong's heart was filled with complicated feelings. He even felt a hint of fear towards Ning Fan's speed of improvement. It has only been 100 years and this young man has already reached this stage. If he is given another 100 or even 1,000 years, how far can he go? I'm afraid that only those ancient great cultivators could achieve such cultivation potential when they were young. Could it be that this young man actually has the potential to become an ancient great cultivator? Yunlei greets the two emperors and fellow Taoists. Ning Fan greets the two emperors and fellow Taoists. Ning Fan followed behind Yunlei and slightly cupped his fists to greet everyone. The immortal venerables present did not dare to be careless. All of them stood up and returned his greeting. Even immortal King Xian Bei politely returned Ning Fan's greeting. Only Great Emperor Shen Kong and Void Sovereign did not get up even after a long time. They did not return Ning Fan's greeting. Void Sovereign did not do so. He just narrowed his eyes and examined Ning Fan. As for Great Emperor Shen Kong, his expression darkened. All of a sudden he let out a snort. All of a sudden, countless rays of golden light emerged between heaven and earth and turned into a 1,000 zhang long golden finger. Then, it directly pressed down on Ning Fan's head. Take this finger and prove your strength. Then, you will be qualified to be called my fellow Taoist. That finger of Great Emperor Shen Kong did not use his full strength. It was just comparable to the attack of a newly advanced immortal venerable. Just like Void Sovereign, he still could not believe Ning Fan's strength. No matter what, it was a little shocking for him to have the cultivation base of an immortal venerable within 100 years. He must personally verify it before he could believe it. Ning Fan looked at the finger expressionlessly. He could see that Great Emperor Shen Kong's finger was just a test. He did not have any malicious intent. To be more precise, Great Emperor Shin Kong was already frightened by ancient chaos's prestige 100 years ago. Before the true righteous path of ancient chaos was destroyed, he did not dare to attack ancient chaos's successor at all. 100 years later, he had to be called a fellow Taoist. With the status of the two emperors, it was naturally difficult for them to accept it. If Ning Fan could not prove his strength, the two emperors would definitely not lower their status and accept him calling them fellow Taoist. As soon as Shin Kong pointed his finger, heaven and earth changed color. All the old monsters at the scene perked up, wanting to see how Ning Fan would deal with this finger. The scene that happened 100 years ago replayed in Ning Fan's mind. In the past, he had to borrow the prestige of ancient chaos in order to scare Great Emperor Shin Kong. Today, however, if it's just a probing finger of Great Emperor Shin Kong, he would be able to take it on by himself. He did not retreat. Instead, he directly slashed a ray of purple light at the 1,000 zhang tall golden finger that was descending from the sky. Under the slash, the purple and golden energy immediately clashed with each other between heaven and earth, creating countless chi waves. After the collision, all of them vanished into thin air. Ning Fan's sword strike was actually extremely precise. It was not even half a bit stronger than Shin Kong's finger, but it was not weaker either. The eyes of all the old monsters at the scene immediately turned solemn. Being able to control the sword strike with such ease was enough to prove that Ning Fan's strength was above that of a newly advanced immortal venerable. The first eternal tribulation. Each of the old monsters' eyes were filled with astonishment. It was already rare for him to reach the immortal venerable realm within 100 years. To think that he could actually take another step forward and become a first tribulation immortal venerable. This young man's cultivation speed was simply heaven-defying. How many ancient immortal venerables had spent millions of years just to break through to the first tribulation immortal venerable realm? Ning Fan, on the other hand, managed to reach this step in just 100 years. If he has another 100 or 1,000 years, how far could he go? Who could predict it? 100 years ago, I've underestimated this young man. I didn't expect that I would also misjudge him. Great Emperor Shin Kong was the first to stand up. He cupped his fists at Ning Fan as a return of respect and acknowledged Ning Fan's identity as a fellow Taoist. As for Great Emperor Shin Kong, he remained silent for a while. In the end, he let out a sigh and stood up from the ground, cupping his fists at Ning Fan. Even though he was unwilling, he had to admit that the current Ning Fan had the qualifications to be treated as an equal by him. I want to enter the 9th floor to see my master. I wonder if the two emperors can make an exception and open the teleportation gate for me to enter. Ning Fan said to the two emperors with a serious expression. He really wanted to have a conversation with them and ask them what exactly happened in the divine tomb 10 years ago. However, he was more concerned about the current situation of the ancient chaos. If he could not see that the ancient chaos was safe and sound with his own eyes, he would not be able to feel at ease. You want to enter the 9th floor? I'm afraid it might be a little difficult. Great Emperor Shin Kong frowned slightly. The devil chi in the 9th floor was the heaviest. It was so heavy that even with his cultivation base of an 8th tribulation immortal emperor, it was still difficult for him to enter. Even though Ning Fan had become an immortal venerable, it was still extremely dangerous for him to enter the 9th floor. Unless you have a quasi-saint realm protector, you won't be able to enter the 9th floor with your current cultivation base. Great Emperor Shin Kong was even more direct with his words. Even though he had acknowledged Ning Fan's strength, he still held a grudge against Ning Fan. Thus, his words were naturally impolite. Ning Fan frowned slightly and looked at the teleportation gate, which was constantly leaking devil chi. He did not express his opinion. He could feel that the devil chi in the 9th floor would be much stronger than the devil chi in the center of the palm imprint. Even if he was an ancient devil, it would be difficult for him to endure that level of devil chi. However, even so, he must enter the 9th floor to have a look. If he was not stubborn, he would not be Ning Fan. Fellow Taoist, why don't you stay here and wait for my old ancestor to return? At that time, with my old ancestor's protection, fellow Taoist will naturally be able to enter the 9th floor and meet Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. Why don't you sit down and have a chat with us first? I'm sure fellow Taoist has a lot of questions about the changes in the divine tomb 10 years ago that urgently need answers. Great Emperor Shin Kong spoke again. His tone was much more polite than Great Emperor Shin Kong's. The old ancestor he mentioned was naturally his master, the only quasi-saint realm expert in the godly void pavilion, Xiang Bozi. However, just as Great Emperor Shin Kong finished speaking, a voice suddenly came from the teleportation gate. It's all right. Let him in. With me here, the devil chi of the 9th floor won't be able to hurt him. Let this old man tell him what he wants to know. This voice was very familiar. It was undoubtedly Xiang Bozi. However, his chi was extremely unstable, as if he was severely injured. Come and see your master. He is approaching the end of his Tao and he really wants to see you. Xiang Bozi then sighed. With his cultivation base at the first level quasi-saint realm, even if he used up all the spiritual medicines in the godly void pavilion, he still would not be able to save Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. I'm afraid the great limit of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos is really coming. Chapter 959. As soon as Xiang Bozi finished speaking, a vast amount of magic power came from the other end of the teleportation gate, causing the demonic chi in the gate to tremble violently. It was as if a pair of invisible hands had torn it apart, revealing a demonic chi passage that could allow a single person to pass through. The demonic energy of the divine tomb's 9th level was far too heavy. With the cultivation of the divine void twin emperors, the most they could do was enter alone. Wanting to open a channel through the demonic energy was actually difficult. In Godly Void Pavilion, only Xiang Bozi could do this with his first-level quasi-sage cultivation. But even for Xiang Bozi, it wasn't easy for him to accomplish this. After hearing the old ancestor's words, no one stopped Ning Fan from entering the 9th floor. The group of experts sat down again and set up a seal on the teleportation gate, trying to seal off the leakage of demonic chi from the gate. Ning Fan, on the other hand, entered the portal with a heavy heart. Ning Fan could hear the helplessness in Xiang Bozi's words. That tone made it seem as if even with Xiang Bozi's first-rank quasi-sage cultivation and all the resources of the Godly Void Pavilion, he would not be able to save the Ancient Chaos Emperor. How bad was the Ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor's situation? Roar! 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 As soon as he entered the 9th floor, deafening devil roars resounded in his ears. Each of the roars was stronger than the previous one. Being caught off guard, Ning Fan only felt a buzzing pain in his ears. Then, black blood flowed out from his mouth. His consciousness was nearly knocked out by the devil roars. What a powerful demonic roar! Just who was it that could actually let out such a terrifying demonic roar? It wasn't a roar that had just been emitted, but an echo. It had already reverberated in the 9th level for 10 years, and it still hadn't disappeared. Little friend, be careful. This is the roar left behind by that demon 10 years ago. With your current cultivation, you must not listen to this demonic sound, or your sea of consciousness will be heavily injured. In the Devil Chi passageway, a blind old man in gray robes suddenly appeared in front of Ning Fan. With a flick of his sleeve seemed to contain the great Tao of heaven and earth. All of a sudden, all the echoes in heaven and earth were swept away by his sleeve like dust, no longer able to approach Ning Fan. As soon as he saw the gray-robed old man, Ning Fan did not dare to be careless. He immediately greeted the old man. Junior Ning Fan greets Senior Xiang. In his heart, he was shocked by Xiang Bozi's words. The echoes of the devil's roar had actually spread from 10 years ago all the way to the present. Moreover, it was actually able to injure him with a single roar. The cultivation of the ancient great devil who left behind this roar was truly world-shaking. You don't have to be so polite, little friend. This old man will bring you to see your master one last time. The last time? What does that mean? Ning Fan's heart felt like it was struck by a rock. His expression changed. Could it be that the ancient chaos great emperor's lifespan has come to an end and his Tao is going to be destroyed? What happened in the tomb of the god of sin 10 years ago? Was the ancient demon that came to the tomb of the god of sin the culprit who caused the destruction of the chaotic ancient Tao? Who is that devil? As if he had seen through Ning Fan's doubts, Xiang Bozi brought Ning Fan to the 9th floor of the chaotic ancient tomb palace. At the same time, he briefly told Ning Fan about what happened 10 years ago. 10 years ago, the red sun illuminating the sea phenomenon appeared in the eastern sky. The scope of the phenomenon was very wide. At that time, it caused a large number of cultivators to panic. Fortunately, the phenomenon soon disappeared. On that day, only the disappearance of babies occurred on 4,000 cultivation planets, so it didn't cause any more incidents. For cultivators, the death of a few mortal babies was not a big deal. Therefore, very few people paid attention to the phenomenon. Very few people knew that on the day when the red sun illuminating the sea appeared 10 years ago, an ancient great devil came to the divine tomb. That great devil seemed to have descended into the divine tomb out of nowhere. It directly appeared on the 7th floor of the divine tomb, causing a strong tremor in the tomb. The Divine Void Emperor and the Divine Void Emperor immediately led their people into the tomb to investigate. Countless experts in the group could not even withstand a single palm attack from that great devil and were defeated. Xiang Bozi, the quasi-sage realm expert who had been living in seclusion, could no longer sit idly by. He personally entered the divine tomb, but he was also defeated by that great devil. Similarly, he could not withstand a single palm attack from that devil. The dead spirits in the last 3 floors of the divine tomb were completely devoured by that great devil. Then, he went straight to the chaotic ancient tomb palace and issued a challenge to the ancient chaos great emperor. Even Xiang Bozi had no idea why that ancient great devil challenged the ancient chaos great emperor. He only knew that the battle was too terrifying. Even with his quasi-sage realm cultivation base, he could not participate in it. All he could do was hide in the 8th floor and sense it from afar. That battle ended with the defeat of the primeval great demon, and the primeval chaos great emperor had almost perished on the spot due to overexertion of energy. Had it not been for Xiang Bozi taking out the ancient treasures of the divine void pavilion and saving him, the ancient chaos great emperor would not have been able to hold on until today. He would have perished 10 years ago. I used all of the connate spirit herbs in the pavilion and even used the 3 strands of origin chi I've collected in my life to barely seal the primeval chaos emperor's soul. However, 10 years had passed, and the ancient chaos emperor's soul was still extremely weak. Now, no matter how many treasures of heaven and earth there were, it was impossible to save the emperor's fate. During these 10 years, the ancient chaos the arch had always been in a deep sleep. However, when you entered the divine tomb, he forced himself to wake up. I think he also wants to see you. Xiang Bozi let out a long sigh. Before the divine void ancestor died, he had left behind a final order. If ancient chaos neared the end of his Tao, then even if he had to sacrifice all of divine void pavilion's treasures, he had to save him. He had indeed carried out the primogenitor's orders. Unfortunately, he couldn't save ancient chaos. I also don't know the identity of that ancient great devil. However, I have some guesses. That ancient great devil used fire as his wings and bats as his devil marks. He somewhat resembled the members of the Fire Wings clan of the ancient devil race. I don't know much about the ancient devil race and I can't tell much about them. Moreover, there seems to be a purple devil sealing stone embedded in the glabella of that ancient great devil. But how is this possible? Didn't all of those ancient great devils die in battle? Could it be the missing part? As he said that, Xiang Bozi's expression became unprecedentedly solemn. However, he was also a little uncertain. He did not know what the Fire Wings clan was, and he also did not know what the Devil Sealing Stone was. What is the Devil Sealing Stone? Ning Fan asked. Little friend, you haven't heard of the Devil Sealing Stone? Xiang Bozi was slightly surprised. Then he smiled and said, You're right. Even though little friend's innate talent is great, you have only cultivated for a short period of time after all. It's normal that you don't know about these ancient secrets. Little friend, you should know that the 4 heavens and 9 worlds that we are in is an illusory world, right? I know. After reaching the level of immortal venerate ancient, he would more or less know about the origin of the illusory world. After seeing Ning Fan nod his head, Xiang Bozi was not concerned and continued to speak. Little friend, you should know about the invasion of the outer domain and the collapse of the ancient heavenly court, right? I've heard a little about it. It is said that when the Zido immortal domain collapsed, immortal sovereign Zido used the last of his power to seal the remaining Zido immortal realm cultivators into a certain illusory world, isolating them from the true world. Then, he left behind 9 stone doors that can lead one to the true world in the ancient heavenly desolate realm. We are the cultivators of that illusory world. This illusory world has a long history. It was already opened when immortal sovereign Zido achieved Tao. In the beginning, the strongest force in the illusory world was the ancient heavenly court, which was ruled by a heaven sovereign. Later on, the remaining Zido immortal realm cultivators entered the illusory world, increasing the number of the strongest forces in the ancient heavenly court to 4, the ancient heavenly court, the demon manor, the 10 realm guarding clans and the devil conferral summit. Ning Fan's eyes narrowed. It was his first time hearing about such ancient secrets. It was his first time hearing about the demon manor and the 10 realm guarding clans. As for the ancient heavenly court and the devil conferral summit, he was no stranger to them. The ancient heavenly court was the force controlled by Mu Weiliang's father, while the devil conferral summit was the force established by great emperor Mo Zhong. The devil conferral summit was the sacred ground of the devil race. Ning Fan had once visited the devil conferral summit and awakened his ancient devil bloodline there. In the beginning, the illusory world was still led by the ancient heavenly court. However, the situation in the illusory world changed drastically. First, the demon race was invaded by a mysterious expert and it collapsed into the awakening realm and the dream realm. The entire demon manor was sealed in the dream realm. Inside the demon manor, everyone from ancient great demons to low-grade demon generals were severely injured and on the verge of death. They fell into a state of deep sleep and it was difficult for them to wake up. No one knew what happened to the demon race. The only thing they knew was that all the demon cultivators in the awakening realm had been deprived of their demon spiritual power. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. He had long heard that there was a place of deep sleep in the demon race where an ancient great demon was sleeping. Today, he heard more detailed information about it from Xiang Bozi. After that, the devil race was also in trouble. That person, a mysterious expert, came to the devil race. However, no one knew what exactly happened to the devil race. Ever since that person came, the devil conferral summit of the devil race suffered a destructive blow and disappeared from heaven and earth. From then on, I've never heard of any devil cultivators who could enter the ancient devil's abyss and receive the inheritance of the ancient devils. As for the ancient great devils who guarded the devil conferral summit, half of them died in battle. Their corpses were incomplete while the whereabouts of the other half were unknown. After that, the devil race collapsed into 9 great devil abysses. 9 devil ancestors were suppressed under the 9 devil mountains. Until now, they still haven't been able to break free from the seal. As for the surviving low-grade devils, all of them had lost their ancient devil bloodline. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. It was his first time hearing about such a secret behind the 9 divisions of the ancient devil's abyss. After that, the ancient heavenly court was in trouble. It was said that an immortal emperor of the ancient heavenly court had betrayed the heaven sovereign's trust. He destroyed the demon manor and the devil conferral summit all by himself, suppressing the demon race and the devil race. No one knew how that immortal emperor obtained the key to the passage of the heaven sovereign and opened the stone door that led to the ancient heavenly court. After that, countless cultivators from the outer world swarmed into the ancient heavenly court, trying to destroy this illusory world completely. In that battle, the heaven sovereign and the cultivators of the ancient heavenly court under his command all died in battle. In the end, all the invading cultivators from the outer world were annihilated. As he spoke until here, Xiang Bozi's tone was heroic and heroic. It was obvious that he admired the ancestors of the ancient heavenly court who died protecting the realm. Ning Fan, on the other hand, frowned. He had seen Mu Weiliang's memories before. He had also seen some fragments of the collapse of the ancient heavenly court. He remembered that one of the invading cultivators from the outer world seemed to have escaped. Immortal Emperor Zhang Qing should have escaped. However, when he thought about it again, if Immortal Emperor Zhang Qing had really escaped, why didn't the coordinates of the illusory world plane leak out? Why didn't the cultivators from the outer world invade the illusory world after so many years? He couldn't figure it out. That battle was too brutal. It directly caused heaven and earth to collapse into the 4 heavens and 9 worlds. Moreover, after the battle, the low-grade cultivators of the god race also lost their ancient divine bloodline and the power of their heart aperture. Among the 4 great forces in the past, the ancient heavenly court was completely annihilated. The demon manor fell into a deep slumber. The devil conferral summit was half destroyed and disappeared. Only the 10 clans of the World Guardian survived and became the strongest force above the 4 heavens, the 10 great secret clans. Logically speaking, the 10 great secret clans are the strongest forces in the illusory world. Each clan has a great cultivator from the ancient times. They are fully capable of taking over the entire illusory world on behalf of the ancient heavenly court. However, the 10 great secret clans unexpectedly did not have the intention to take over the world. Instead, they sealed their territories one after another and did not contact the outside world. I once received a piece of news which is somewhat credible. It is said that before the ancient heavenly court was annihilated, the 10 clans of the World Guardian were invaded by someone. The immortal emperor who betrayed the ancient heavenly court killed all the ancient great cultivators of the 10 clans with his own strength. This might be the reason why the 10 clans sealed their territories and did not come out. Immortal Emperor Zhang Qing once killed all the ancient great cultivators of the 10 clans with his own strength? If Xiang Bozi's information is to be believed, wouldn't Immortal Emperor Zhang Qing annihilate the Demon Manor, the Devil Summit, the secret clans and the ancient heavenly court all by himself? Currently, Ning Fan could be considered to have witnessed the power of great cultivators from the ancient times. At the very least, he should be as strong as Inmo in order to have the courage to call himself a great cultivator from the ancient times, right? Figures of that level were actually slaughtered by Zhang Qing. It was enough to show how powerful Zhang Qing was. A heavenly emperor who could chase Zhang Qing out of the illusory world was certainly not a weakling. A heavenly emperor was also terrifyingly strong. Then, here comes the question. How did the butterfly in the past manage to destroy Zhang Qing's eye? Without any cultivation base or ability, she managed to destroy Zhang Qing's eye just like that. Why? Ever since he started cultivating the Tao, Ning Fan would often think about this question. However, he could not think of an answer. The butterfly must have relied on some kind of power that was beyond his understanding to destroy Zhang Qing's eye. However, why would such a level of power appear on the butterfly? The Devil Conferral Summit is the sacred ground of the devil race. It is said that Great Emperor Mo Zhong, who was ranked 7th under the immortal sovereign throne, established it. When it moved to the illusory world, Great Emperor Mo Zhong had already died in battle many years ago. In the beginning, there were a total of 25 great ancient devils guarding the Devil Conferral Summit. On the eve of the invasion of the foreign cultivators, 13 of them died in battle, but 12 of them went missing. All the great ancient devils on the Devil Conferral Summit shared a common characteristic, the Devil's Sealing Stone that was embedded on their glabella. The great ancient devil who came to the Divine Tomb 10 years ago had a Devil's Sealing Stone on his glabella. I suspect that this person is highly likely to be one of the 12 great ancient devils who went missing in the past. If that's really the case, why did that devil reappear after disappearing for countless years, and why did he come to the Divine Tomb and attack Great Emperor Ancient Chaos? I also can't find the answer to these questions. Xiang Bozi let out a long sigh. He told Ning Fan everything he knew and guessed. As for the rest of the things, he also did not know. In the past, the great ancient devils on the Devil Conferral Summit went missing. Then, the foreign cultivators invaded and destroyed heaven and earth. Today, the group of great devils who had gone missing reappeared in this world. Would there be a great disturbance in this world again? Ning Fan's face was as gloomy as still water. After hearing so many secrets, he actually felt a hint of uneasiness for no reason. Inexplicably, his mind recalled Nalan Zi's words of divination that day. The four heavens will be isolated. There will be a great war in the northern heaven. The Spirit King will die in the hands of the Western demon ancestor. Judging from the words of divination, the world will certainly be plunged into chaos. Could it be that the arrival of the great ancient devils in the divine tomb is also part of that great chaos? Things seemed to be a little different from what he had imagined previously. This great ancient devil was not one of the 9 great devil ancestors. It seemed like it had little to do with the devil well of contract on the 9th floor. The guilt in his heart lessened a little, but his worries increased. At this moment, Ning Fan had already arrived at the outside of the ancient Chaos Tomb Palace. From afar, he saw the illusory old man who was wearing a faint smile. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. He was originally in a deep slumber. However, after Ning Fan arrived, he forcefully woke up just to see his disciple. His body became even more illusory and almost transparent. However, due to the power of the 3 traces of Shi Qi, his body was forcefully stabilized and did not dissipate. His face looked very old and withered. His white hair was dry but neat. Even though his qi was weak, it did not lose the domineering aura he had in the past. LV Feng and Little Demonis stood beside him. During these days, they seemed to have been taking care of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos on Ning Fan's behalf. Seeing Ning Fan's arrival, Little Demonis' eyes were filled with longing and joy while LV Feng's expression was complicated. As for Great Emperor Ancient Chaos, who was smiling warmly just now, his expression immediately darkened when he sensed the smell of blood on Ning Fan's body. His disciple had such a strong smell of blood. Besides, it was actually the blood of experts. It's those ants from the dark race who attacked you. How dare they touch my disciple? They are courting death. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos took a step forward. The killing intent around his body skyrocketed, and it was enough to drown heaven and earth. Yes, he was extremely weak. He was on the brink of death. However, he had been strong all his life and had never been bullied by anyone. If the dark race dares to bully his disciple, he would make them pay the price even if his Tao is destroyed immediately. Unknowingly, Ning Fan's eyes turned sour when he saw how protective Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was. He slowly closed his eyes. This was his master, the master who would always stand behind him and support him no matter what. The first thing he said to him when they met was that he was concerned about him. He was the person who would stand up for him even if his Tao is destroyed. Ning Fan was unfortunate. His childhood was filled with hardships and he had suffered countless hardships. He even fell into a devil sect and nearly died. On the other hand, he was fortunate. He had countless lovers in his life and he was fortunate enough to meet 3 masters. Each of them sincerely regarded him as their disciple and successor. Old Devil, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos and Zido. The 3 of them had different levels of cultivation. However, all of them pointed out the path for Ning Fan to advance in different stages of his Tao cultivation. The feeling of having a master who cares about me is really good. Even though it was just a desolate and dilapidated divine tomb, Ning Fan felt like he had returned home after a long time. The dark race didn't attack me. When he opened his eyes again, he wore a light smile and lied to the ancient Chaos Immortal Emperor. He definitely did not want Great Emperor Ancient Chaos to risk his Tao to take revenge on the dark race. He would solve his own problems by himself. Besides, compared to the dark race, he was more concerned about Great Emperor Ancient Chaos's body. That kind of illusory and old appearance made Ning Fan, who had an iron heart, feel sad. Chapter 960. Given how intelligent the ancient Chaos Great Emperor was, how could he not tell that Ning Fan was lying? However, he also understood that the reason why Ning Fan said that was because he did not want him to worry. Perhaps the dark race did not personally take action against Ning Fan, but those forces who wanted to curry favor with the dark race could no longer sit still. He had yet to extinguish his Tao, and yet others dared to bully his disciple. If his Tao was completely extinguished, What kind of situation would his disciple be in? The Purple Doe celestial realm used to be so powerful and prosperous. Back then, the Lai Yuan sect's reputation had been so great. Thinking back to when he, the ancient Chaos Emperor, was at his peak, he could suppress the dark race with a wave of his hand. No one dared to bully his disciple. But now, the Purple Dipper celestial realm had fallen apart, and the entire Lai Yuan sect had perished in battle. The last descendants of the Purple Dipper celestial realm were trapped in the illusionary world, unable to walk out. They did not dare to walk out, and they were in a sorry state. He, ancient chaos, had died in battle in ancient times. He had relied on the help of the divine void ancestor to leave behind an illusion that hadn't been destroyed. Although he had struggled to survive in the illusionary world until now, he would eventually perish. He was no longer the almighty ancient Chaos Emperor. He no longer had the power to suppress the dark races. The destruction of his Tao was almost irreversible. The only thing he was worried about was the successor he had accepted after his death, Ning Fan. Was he in such a sorry state that he couldn't even protect his disciple? All of you withdraw for now. I want to speak with my disciple, and I don't want anyone to listen. Ancient chaos killing intent gradually vanished, and he revealed a dejected expression as he instructed Luo Zi and the others. After hearing what Ning Fan said, Xiang Bozi, Shui Mining and LV Feng did not stay any longer. They parted ways with Ning Fan and returned to the 8th level of the Divine Tomb. Outside of the Palace Tomb, there was only Ning Fan and his disciple, Ancient Chaos, standing opposite each other. The ancient Chaos Great Emperor was obviously extremely weak, but he still raised his hand and helped Ning Fan block the Devil Chi of the 9th floor. This kind of invisible concern made Ning Fan feel even sadder. As long as there is a chance, he would not wish for the chaotic ancient Tao to be destroyed. However, he did not know if there was still a chance to save this old man. I'm close to the end of my Tao, but there's still one thing I'm worried about, and that's you. You've done very well. You haven't brought shame to the Lai Yuan sect's name. It's only been 100 years, and you've actually managed to cultivate the Jie clan's bloodline to the realm of 3 stars real blood. With such aptitude, even in the primordial era, you would be able to look down upon all heroes. With your current strength that is comparable to the ancient immortal venerables, you might not be able to do as you please in the illusory world, but you can protect yourself. I wouldn't be worried if someone else bullied you, but this time, it was the dark race. The 10,000 ancient immortal venerables aren't strong enough to fight against the dark race. It's a pity that the primordial seal can't be passed to you. Otherwise, the dark race wouldn't dare to bully you. Ancient Chaos coldly humphed. He turned his hand and took out a scroll weaved with golden threads, showing it to Ning Fan's. The surface of the scroll looked ordinary and there was no magical power flowing within it. However, in Ning Fan's eyes, it seemed to have the power to punish the heavens and earth. The moment it first appeared, it was as if it had replaced the heavenly Tao of this place and could send down tribulations and punishments. There's no mistaking it. The power contained within this golden scroll is clearly the power of slaughter and punishment. However, it was different from the punishment power that Ning Fan had mastered. Ning Fan's punishment power was used to punish the barbarian race, while the punishment power in this scroll was used to punish other races. What is this? Ning Fan asked. In the past, when the immortal sovereign sent the last descendant of Zido into the illusory world, he left behind 3 ancient contracts. They are the Demon Mansion contracts, the Devil Summit contracts, and the 10 Clans contracts. Among them, the Demon Mansion contracts were obtained by the Lord of the Demon Mansion. With this contract, he can suppress all demons below the Quasi-Saint realm. The Devil Puppet contracts were obtained by the first Devil General under Great Emperor Mo Zhong. With this contract, he can suppress all devils below the Quasi-Saint realm. The contracts in my hands are the 10 Clans contracts. It exists specifically to suppress the 10 clans of the Realm Guarding clan. The reason why the dark race is afraid of me is because of this item. With this item, as long as I am still alive, I can use this contract to suppress all divine cultivators below the Quasi-Saint realm. The dark race are all divine cultivators. That's why they are afraid of me. Unfortunately, this contract can't be passed on to others. It will only perish together with me. If it's not because of this, I can pass this contract to you. In that case, the dark race will certainly be wary of you and won't dare to bully you. What a pity. Ancient Chaos let out a long sigh. He kept the ancient contract and said, I've been living in the divine tomb for many years. I've long been tired of this kind of life where I'm neither alive nor dead. To me, the death of my Tao might be a kind of release. The only thing I'm worried about is that the dark race will come to bully you after my Tao is extinguished. The dark race is like an ant to me. To you, the dark race is still a colossus. If I can live for a few more years, I can intimidate the dark race for you. Unfortunately, my lifespan has come to an end. The battle against that great devil has exhausted all of my remaining strength. Is there really no way to stop the death of my Tao? Ning Fan asked with a solemn expression. There's no way. Ancestor Divine Void built the divine tomb for me. It's already a heaven-defying item. He can keep one of my illusions alive, just like the shadow of the mountains and seas of the barbarian race. However, even this can't stop the death of my illusions. Little friend Xiang has used a lot of innate spiritual herbs to save me. However, even innate spiritual herbs aren't enough to prolong my life. Before Ancient Chaos could finish his words, Ning Fan suddenly asked, if there's a heaven-opening grade spiritual herb, can it save me? Heaven-opening grade spiritual herb? Ancient Chaos was stunned. Then, he shook his head and chuckled. There isn't even a sage in the illusory dream world. How can there be a heaven-opening grade spiritual herb? Even a sage might not necessarily have that kind of spiritual herb. Besides, not just any kind of heaven-opening grade spiritual herb can prolong one's life. The chances of this happening are really slim. We can't force it? Ancient Chaos did not mean what he said, but Ning Fan was listening intently. A sage might not necessarily have it. In other words, it's still possible for a sage to have it. Isn't the Supreme Pill Sacred Region just a place where a sage grows and gathers herbs? Would there be a spiritual herb that could prolong Ancient Chaos' life there? Originally, Ning Fan just wanted to fulfill his promise and accompany Ouyang Nuan to the Supreme Pill Sacred Region. However, this time, he had another goal. After meeting you this time, I will continue to sleep. In this way, I can certainly make the illusion last longer. It should be able to last for another 10 years. Within 10 years, the dark race won't dare to take action personally. After 10 years, I won't be able to protect you anymore. You might not be able to protect yourself. Ancient Chaos smiled bitterly. He reached out his hand and patted Ning Fan's shoulder. His expression was filled with worry and helplessness. Ning Fan's eyes, however, lit up. The Supreme Pill Sacred Region will open in another 5 years. If I can find the heaven-opening grade spiritual herb inside, I might be able to save Great Emperor Ancient Chaos in time. Sure enough, I must go to the Supreme Pill Sacred Region. Ning Fan secretly kept this matter in mind. However, there was another matter that he was puzzled about. Thus, he asked about the drastic change in the Divine Tomb 10 years ago. That ancient Great Devil had fought against Great Emperor Ancient Chaos before. Thus, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos certainly knew more than Xiang Bozi. That Great Devil was suspected to be the missing Devil Lord from the Devil Conferral Summit. However, no one knew his exact identity. No one knew why he came to the Divine Tomb either. Speaking of which, if it wasn't for that Great Devil who suddenly appeared and fought against Ancient Chaos would not have died so quickly. Thinking of this, Ning Fan frowned. He felt a lot of hostility towards that ancient Great Devil whose identity was unknown. If I'm not mistaken, that Great Devil should be Old Devil Blackwing of the Firewings clan. He is the 7th Devil General of the Devil Conferral Summit. Just a sentence from Ancient Chaos confirmed the identity of that Great Devil. As expected, it was the Great Devil of the Devil Conferral Summit. The Great Devils of the Devil Conferral Summit either died in battle or went missing. This Old Devil Blackwing was exactly that Devil Lord who had gone missing. He used the Devil Cavity to directly enter the Divine Tomb. Devil Cavity. It was a kind of lost divine ability of the ancient fiend gods. It could directly open a passage and travel between worlds. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. He had also read about the devil cavity in some ancient books. However, he did not expect that the great devil did not enter the divine tomb through the devil well. Instead, he walked out of the devil cavity. His chi is very strange. It feels like a living person but also like a dead person. When he faced me, he did not seem to have the consciousness of his true body. His purpose of coming to the divine tomb seems to be the ancient contract. He once tried to tempt me to go with him, wanting to borrow the contract of the 10 clans. However, I rejected him and fought him out of anger. Unfortunately, he was no match for me. I forced him to retreat and even destroyed his devil cavity. As a result, he has lost his devil cavity. It will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens if he wants to cross the boundary and enter the divine tomb again. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. It turned out that old Devil Blackwing's purpose was actually the ancient contract that ancient chaos possessed. Since the contract could not be given to others, it could only be used by ancient chaos himself. That was why old Devil Blackwing requested ancient chaos to do so. After he was rejected, he attacked ancient chaos forcefully but was defeated. Why did the great devil who disappeared in the ancient war suddenly appear and come here to seek the power of the ancient contract? Ning Fan faintly felt that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. However, he did not have the power to verify it. After talking about the ancient great devil, ancient chaos then asked about Ning Fan's experiences in the past 100 years. Ning Fan told ancient chaos about his experiences in the desolate wasteland. When he heard that a certain eyeball monster was still alive, ancient chaos's face darkened as if he had recalled something bad. He only had one woman whom he loved the most in his life. Her name was Hiyao. There was once an extremely wretched eyeball monster who dared to peep at Hiyao when she was bathing. Fortunately, ancient chaos discovered him in time and gave him a good beating. When he heard that the wretched old friend of his was still alive, ancient chaos felt relieved after his expression darkened. When he heard that Ning Fan had joined forces with the strange eyeball to kill old ancestor Mo, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos actually threw his head back and laughed heartily. Obviously, he was very happy. Mo was the biggest trader of the Purple Dipper Immortal Domain. Countless Purple Dipper Immortal cultivators wanted to kill him. Who would have thought that he would die in the hands of his own disciple? Mo had really taken in a good disciple. Ning Fan did not hide the fact that he had become the barbarian god and obtained the heaven-opening weapon from Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. As soon as he heard that Ning Fan had become the 10th barbarian god and obtained the 6th fragment of the god exterminating shield, even with the Ancient Chaos Great Emperor's mental state, he could not help but be shocked. Even when Ancient Chaos was at his peak, he didn't have the chance to own a heaven-opening treasure. Ning Fan was lucky enough to get one. This disciple's luck was much better than his. Moreover, he had actually become the barbarian god who stood above tens of thousands of people in the ancient barbarian tribe. If he is in the true world, his status would probably be even more distinguished than many incipient saints. The only problem was that this heaven-opening artifact had been damaged in the battle against Mo, so it had to be repaired. A heaven-opening artifact is different from ordinary magic treasures. After it is damaged, it can repair itself. However, in the process of repairing itself, it must absorb the power of the heaven-opening stone. The heaven-opening stone is in or used to refine a heaven-opening artifact. It is divided into 4 grades: low grade, mid-grade, high grade, and supreme grade. The heaven-opening stones above the mid-grade are as precious as heaven-opening spiritual herbs. As for the low-grade heaven-opening stones, they are slightly more common. Many of them are used to refine supreme-grade innate magic treasures. For an ancient force like the Godly Void Pavilion, perhaps they might have heaven-opening stones. It turns out that a heaven-opening artifact can repair itself. However, the process of repairing itself requires the use of heaven-opening stones. Ning Fan thought to himself, "I'll ask Senior Xiang Bozi later to see if the Godly Void Pavilion has such an item. If they do, I can buy some." Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was too weak. After speaking for a long time, he showed signs of fatigue. Seeing this, Ning Fan did not say anything else. After sending ancient chaos great emperor to sleep again, he returned to the 8th level of the divine tomb. When he arrived, his heart was heavy. Now, he had a glimmer of hope. His expression became much more relaxed. At least, he could go to the Supreme Pill sacred region to search for it. After all, that place was the herb-gathering place of saints. There might be some heaven-opening spiritual herbs there. Perhaps Great Emperor Ancient Chaos can still be saved. Such a thought lingered in his mind. It actually gave Ning Fan a feeling that the samsara void tribulation was about to befall him. Sure enough, his samsara void tribulation required him to grasp something and bear that burden. Only then could he achieve a breakthrough. After returning to the 8th level, Ning Fan discussed with Xiang Bozi for a while again as if they had made an agreement. After that, LV1 went to look for Ning Fan. It was unknown what he said to Ning Fan, but both of them seemed to have made an agreement. After that, Ning Fan left the divine tomb and went to Little Demoness' new abode, the Godly Void Pavilion's chief pavilion lord residence, to rest for the time being. After not seeing her for 100 years, Little Demoness' status was no longer the same as before. She was no longer a sacrificial offering nor a nominal young pavilion lord. Instead, after giving an order to Xiang Bozi, she was promoted to be the chief pavilion lord of the 4 pavilions of the Godly Void Pavilion. She was in charge of all the affairs of the 4 pavilions. The original 4 pavilion lords all had to obey the orders of the chief pavilion lord. Little Demoness had actually become the chief pavilion lord of the Godly Void Pavilion. Ning Fan was a little surprised. This status was extremely honorable. It was enough to mobilize all the experts below the venerated immortal realm in the Godly Void Pavilion. Currently, Little Demoness only needed to give an order and she would be able to summon 17 to 18 shredding thoughts, and Shikong to listen to her orders. To outsiders, the Godly Void Pavilion was the strongest force in Eastern Heaven. As the chief pavilion lord of the Godly Void Pavilion, Little Demoness was a figure who was at the same level as a sect master. She was considered as a first-class respected figure. After inheriting the position of the chief pavilion lord, Little Demoness immediately became busy. All the important matters of the 4 pavilions needed her to make decisions. Just like that, she had been busy for 90 years. It was only until the divine tomb experienced a drastic change and ancient chaos was on the verge of Tao extinction that she pushed away all her official duties and appointed the 4 pavilion lords to temporarily take charge of the pavilion. As for herself, she made a request to the 2 divine void emperors to enter the lowest level of the divine tomb and personally take care of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was Ning Fan's master while she was Ning Fan's woman. Her master was on the verge of Tao extinction, but his disciple was not by his side. As Ning Fan's woman, she had the obligation to take care of her master on his behalf. Compared to her husband's matters, nothing else was important. I've been busy for 10 years taking care of my master on behalf of my husband. How are you going to repay me? As soon as she returned to the chief pavilion lord's residence, Little Demoness immediately dismissed all of her maids and snuggled lazily in Ning Fan's embrace, sniffing his scent greedily. After not seeing him for 100 years, she naturally missed Ning Fan. She missed his scent. It was a very heavy smell of blood. He must have killed a lot of people on his way to the Divine Void Pavilion. In these 100 years, he must have experienced a lot of dangers, right? Although there was a lazy and sly smile hanging on her lips, Little Demoness felt a little heartache. She felt sorry for the stubborn young man in the past. He had walked step by step to where he was today. Others only knew about Yujun's glory, but no one knew about the hardships he faced. She knew that she had watched this young man grow up from 7 Apricot City to where he was today. What do you want to repay me? Ning Fan caressed the black hair of the lady in his embrace. His heart was filled with warmth. I want to challenge you, the successor of ancient chaos, once again with the identity of the successor of the Divine Void Pavilion. Little Demoness smiled evilly. With a tug, she directly rolled onto the bed with Ning Fan. Before her black dress could be taken off, her fair and slender legs had already wrapped around Ning Fan's waist. All right, the challenge she mentioned was actually referring to that aspect of the challenge. Ning Fan stayed in the chief pavilion lord's residence for 3 days. During these 3 days, he naturally planted a child relic in her, causing her cultivation base to improve tremendously. After not seeing her for 100 years, little Demoness' cultivation base was already at the late human profound realm. Now, with the power of the child relic, she directly broke through to the late ghost profound realm. She had no choice but to immediately go into seclusion to comprehend the ghost profound realm. Coincidentally, on the 4th day, Xiang Bozi arrived. Thus, Ning Fan and little Demoness had a brief moment of intimacy before crossing the starry sky and leaving. It turned out that the conversation between Ning Fan and Xiang Bozi that day was about the heaven-opening stone. Unfortunately, there was no heaven-opening stone in the Divine Void Pavilion. Otherwise, Xiang Bozi would probably give Ning Fan a piece out of respect for ancient chaos. After Xiang Bozi investigated for 3 days, he finally received news about the heaven-opening stone. Thus, he immediately came to inform Ning Fan. On the other hand, after knowing that Ning Fan had returned, the Luo clan was also purchasing heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures from all over the place to prepare for the treatment of the Battle King. They still needed a few more days to prepare. Thus, Ning Fan did not immediately go to the Battle King Luo clan to save them. Instead, he tried to repair the god-exterminating shield at once to increase his self-protection power. Facing a colossal being like the Dark Race, Ning Fan really did not have much confidence without the god-exterminating shield. The heaven-opening stone that little friend wants is already in progress. Even though the Divine Void Pavilion doesn't have it, I have a good friend in the past who seems to have a low-grade heaven-opening stone that has yet to be used. That person's Dao name is Mu Song. He is not well known in the Eastern Heaven. Perhaps you have never heard of him before. However, he has a disciple whom you must have heard of. He is the master of Emperor Tsong. Emperor Tsong's master. Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly serious. He had heard of Emperor Tsong before. He had even seen him with his own eyes. He was one of the emperors who besieged the Sun Luo clan in the past. He had the profound cultivation base of the 8 Tribulations realm. In terms of strength, he seemed to be slightly stronger than the Divine Void Emperor. Emperor Tsong's master was certainly not an insignificant figure. Besides, since he could become friends with Xiang Bozi, it was highly possible that he was also a quasi-saint realm expert. On the surface, there were only a dozen or so emperors in the Eastern Heaven. However, there were many old monsters who lived in seclusion. Sure enough, one should not underestimate the heroes of the world. Mu Song has been meditating in seclusion all year round. Ordinary cultivators don't even have the qualifications to meet him. His personality is eccentric and you can't judge him with common sense. If it's a normal transaction, I have the confidence to exchange the heaven-opening stone from his hands. However, if he is unwilling to exchange, I can't force him either. Xiang Bozi smiled bitterly. He failed to fulfill the last wish of his ancestor by saving Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. Now that the successor of Ancient Chaos had other requests, he would certainly do his best to help him. To be honest, it would be nice to say that Mu Song was eccentric. To put it bluntly, he was hard to get along with. If it wasn't necessary, he would not want to visit this Taoist Mu Song. If it wasn't because the heaven-opening stone was too rare, he would not have brought Ning Fan all the way to Mu Song's cave dwelling. Xiang Bozi did not ask why Ning Fan needed the heaven-opening stone. He vaguely guessed that Ning Fan probably wanted to refine a powerful magic treasure. That was why he needed this item. As the successor of Ancient Chaos, Ning Fan indeed needed to increase his strength to protect himself when Ancient Chaos was approaching the Dao Extinction realm. The reason why he was willing to help Ning Fan was not only because of Ning Fan's identity as the successor of Ancient Chaos but also because they got along very well. He admired this young man who was also a heavenly being realm cultivator. If I can get the heaven-opening stone, I won't forget Senior's kindness. Ning Fan's tone was very polite. He had a very good impression of Xiang Bozi. Without this person's guidance, even if he absorbed the Qin Tree's will, he would not be able to break through to the second level of the heavenly being realm so smoothly. Without the expedition order given by this person, he would not even be able to enter the wild ancient region. Without this person's support, How could little Demonis be promoted to the chief pavilion lord of the godly void pavilion? This was Xiang Bozi's support and protection for little Demonis. To a large extent, it was also because of Ning Fan that he made such a decision. During the Tao extinction realm of ancient chaos, Xiang Bozi had been very busy. Whether it was under the order of the divine void ancestor or not, Ning Fan felt grateful towards Xiang Bozi. This time, Xiang Bozi had once again put in a lot of effort for the sake of the heaven-opening stone. This made Ning Fan feel rather touched. Now that ancient chaos was approaching the Tao extinction realm, the dark race was always coveting Ning Fan in the dark. Even if a wise person did not try to curry favor with the dark race, they would also not try to befriend Ning Fan at this moment to avoid getting themselves into trouble. Xiang Bozi chose to help Ning Fan and ancient chaos at this moment. It was almost like he was standing on the opposite side of the dark race. Of course, Ning Fan would not ignore this kind intention of his. Even though he addressed Xiang Bozi as senior, he had already taken him as a friend despite the difference in age in his heart. Both of their flying speed was not slow. Under their full speed, it took them less than half a day to travel across countless star regions and arrive at the edge of a green sea of stars. The two of them flew all the way into the Sea of Stars. At the center of the Sea of Stars, there was an immortal island in the sea. The air was filled with the fragrance of pine leaves. The two of them descended towards the immortal island. As soon as they landed, two young boys drilled out of the soil and said with arrogant expressions, "Who are you cultivators? How dare you trespass on my island? Don't you know that the lord of my island has been in seclusion for a long time?" As soon as their voices fell, their bodies glowed with green light. Two early shedding void realm auras spread out from their bodies and pressed down on Ning Fan and Xiang Bozi. This kind of aura naturally could not threaten Ning Fan and Xiang Bozi at all. Ning Fan stood still and let the aura surge towards him. However, it turned into a gentle breeze when it reached 3 zhang in front of him. Xiang Bozi was even more decisive. He directly struck out 2 rays of light from his finger at lightning speed and killed the 2 young boys. After the 2 young boys died, they directly turned into a pile of soil. It turned out that they were not living humans but clay figurines. This Musong likes to make clay figurines every day. If there are any outsiders who want to meet him, they will have to kill all the clay figurines along the way. Only then would they be qualified to meet him. After that, if you see any clay figurines again, you can just kill them directly. If you are not ruthless and decisive enough, it will make Musong dissatisfied. Chapter 961. Clay figurines. Ning Fan nodded and kept Xiang Bozi's advice in mind. Then, his eyes swept across the plants on the wooden island. He felt that every single blade of grass and tree had an indescribable sense of transcendence, as if it was incompatible with all the noise in the outside world. The rustling sound of the wind blowing through the pine forest was mixed with the vague sound of a bell that seemed to be near and far. Every time the sound of the bell reverberated in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness, his mind would become clearer and his cultivation base would improve a little. Even though the improvement was not much, it was enough to show that the sound of the bell was extraordinary. The only thing that made Ning Fan frown was that the bell actually had the intention of advising people to avoid the world. Ning Fan was not bewitched by the bell because of his high cultivation base. If ordinary true immortals were here, they would probably have the thought of converting to Buddhism as soon as they heard the bell. They would abandon everything in the mortal world and choose to enter the Buddhist gate. What a powerful bell! It's my first time seeing such a level of Buddhist ability since I started cultivating the Tao. Ning Fan praised. This bell contains the power of the absolute leakage connection, one of the 6 abilities of the Buddhist gate. Most of the high-level Buddhist cultivators live in the Western Heaven. There are almost no Buddhist cultivators in the Eastern Heaven who have cultivated the absolute leakage connection. It's normal that you have never seen this ability before. Xiang Bozi explained with a smile. The 6 abilities of the Buddhist gate? Ning Fan was slightly stunned. He did not know much about Buddhist cultivators. It was his first time hearing this term. The 6 abilities of the Buddhist gate are the heavenly eye connection, heavenly ear connection, mind connection, destiny connection, divine feet connection, and absolute leakage connection. The heavenly eye connection cultivates the Dharma eye connection, while the heavenly ear connection cultivates the spiritual sense connection. The mind connection can peek into a person's heart. The destiny connection can see the changes of samsara in the past and the present. The divine feet connection can generate the power of hundreds of millions of Dharma bodies. The absolute leakage connection can cut off all the entanglements in the world. Musong's bell contains the power of the absolute leakage connection. If your cultivation base is not strong enough, you will definitely convert to Buddhism after hearing this bell and abandon the mortal world. Xiang Bozi explained while leading Ning Fan to the center of the wooden island. It wasn't that he couldn't fly, but that Taoist Musong had a strange temperament. He didn't like people flying in his territory. Xiang Bozi had come with a request, so naturally he wouldn't violate the taboo. The wooden island was not big. It was just a small island with a radius of 10 li. Looking from the outside, it looked like a ferocious tiger hiding in the sea of stars. The island was filled with luohan pines, which were hundreds of ancient pines that were several tens of zhang tall. The center of the center. From time to time, some mud men would emerge from the surface of the pine forest and attack Ning Fan and Jian Wushuang without hesitation. In the beginning, these clay figurines all had the cultivation base of void shedding. Thus, they naturally could not stop Ning Fan and Xiang Bozi from advancing. Thus, they were easily killed by them. However, as time went on, even the thought-shattering clay man began to appear. Fan and memory li come up and said, Ning li was said. Ning Feng King Fan was able. King Fanling Ning of Fan is. Ning Dong as, said Zhang Ling said. Naturally, the difference in strength between them and Ning Fan was just too great. Thus, they were still easily killed by Ning Fan. However, Ning Fan still wore a solemn expression. This is the power of the mind connection. It can predict the thoughts of the opponent and make decisions in advance during a battle. Xiang Bozi explained. It's the power of the mind connection. It can predict the thoughts of the opponent and make decisions in advance during a battle. It has endless uses. Xiang Bozi explained. It's the 6 abilities of the Buddhist gate again, huh? In other words, these mud men can see through my thoughts with the power of the mind connection? Ning Fan's eyes narrowed. He did not want to let a group of mud men see through his thoughts. The mind connection can only be effective when there is a huge gap between our cultivation bases. It can see through all your thoughts. With your immortal venerable cultivation base, even a 3rd-level quasi-Saint Buddha cultivator would not be able to see through your thoughts. These mud men can only predict your next attack at most. They can't do anything else. Xiang Bozi explained. I see. Knowing that the mind connection would not be able to see through his thoughts, Ning Fan felt relieved. If everyone could see through his thoughts, the mind connection would be too terrifying. Speaking of which, his mind-reading technique was somewhat similar to the mind connection of the Buddhist gate. He wondered if the great Emperor Ancient Chaos had taken reference from the Buddhist gate when he created this ability. After walking along the pine forest for about 3 li, a holy virtue divine art steel suddenly appeared at the side of the path. The tortoise beast that was carrying the steel was vivid and lifelike. Vaguely, it was a demon corpse of the tortoise clan that had died countless years ago. However, the baleful chi that came rushing towards him could still be felt. The baleful chi was too strong. Ning Fan could almost immediately tell that this tortoise beast that had died countless years ago had a cultivation base comparable to a 6th tribulation immortal emperor when it was alive. This Taoist Musong was really generous. He actually used an immortal emperor demon corpse to carry a steel. The steel on the tortoise beast's back was ordinary. There was nothing special about it. There were only 2 simple words on it. World deception. These 2 words were written in wild cursive. They were written with demon blood. Even now, the words were dark red as if blood could seep out from them. The words were filled with arrogance and domineering aura. They were like sharp swords that could not be ignored by others. On the back of the steel, there was a line of small words. I have been domineering for half of my life. Heaven is unfair, so I will be fair. There are evils in the world, so I will eliminate them. The inscription was Venerated Mu Nanzuan. The date was the year 934620000 of the Heavenly Emperor's calendar. Ning Fan had no idea who Venerated Mu Nanzuan was. However, he had heard of the Heavenly Emperor's calendar before. It was the calendar that was set by the Heavenly Emperor when the ancient Heavenly Court was first built 1 billion years ago. 1,000 years was like a snap of a finger in the cultivation world. Therefore, the calendar of the ancient Heavenly Court only used 10,000 years to record the years. Even though the ancient Heavenly Court had been destroyed a long time ago, many cultivators in the later generations still used this calendar. The date of the inscription was about 60 million years ago. Venerated Mu Nanzuan was Mu Song's common name before he became the Heavenly Emperor. This stele was erected by him when he was still a quasi-emperor. Xiang Bozi explained. Ning Fan's eyes slightly moved. When that Taoist Mu Song was still a quasi-emperor, he had already killed an immortal emperor of the Turtle Clan. So, he erected the stele here? He's really a ruthless character. When he turned his head to look at the two words world deception, Ning Fan felt that these two words were sharp and domineering. It was imaginable how domineering Taoist Mu Song was before he became a sovereign. When he recalled the arrogant words heaven is unfair, so I will be fair, Ning Fan seemed to see the image of a Taoist who ruled the world and enforced justice on behalf of heaven. It turned out that the two words world deception meant to sweep away all the evils of the world. After a long time, Ning Fan followed Xiang Bozi into the depths of the pine forest. After walking for a while, he saw the second holy virtue divine art stele. This stele was just an ordinary stone stele made of a tortoise carrying a stele. It was not a real demon corpse. The two words world avoidance were engraved on the front of the stele. It was less murderous but more otherworldly. There was also a line of words engraved on the back of the stele. In my twilight years, I was stuck at the bottleneck of the 8th tribulation realm, unable to advance to the 9th tribulation realm. Because I went to the Western Heaven, I listened to the Buddha's voice and comprehended the true meaning of world avoidance. I washed away all my sharpness and stopped caring about worldly affairs. Then I cultivated to the peak emperor realm. The inscription was Great Emperor Zhang Mu. The date was 272. 26 million of the Western Heaven calendar. Needless to say, Great Emperor Zhang Mu was most likely the title of Taoist Mu Song's sovereign immortal emperor. As for the Western Heaven calendar, it was another calendar. After the ancient heavenly court was destroyed, Buddhist cultivators lived in the Western Heaven. Since the beginning of the calendar, it had been 300 million years. The date of the inscription on the stele was about 30 million years ago. This stele was erected by Mu Song when he was at the peak 9 tribulation realm. Xiang Bozi explained. Ning Fan looked at the second stele with a frown. Even though the first stele was domineering, it dared to complain about the unfairness of the world. It was not hard to imagine that Taoist Mu Song was a cultivator who took the rise and fall of the world as his own responsibility. Even though Ning Fan was not that kind of person, he had always had some respect for cultivators who cared about the world. However, this second stele was filled with negative Tao aura of avoiding the world. Ning Fan especially disliked the word world avoidance. In his life, whenever he encountered difficulties, he would always face them head-on. He would use force to overcome force and never give in. There was no such thing as world avoidance in his life. He did not look at the second stele for too long. If he did, his Tao heart might be contaminated by the world avoidance Tao intent on the stele. The two of them continued to walk deeper into the pine forest. At the deepest part of the forest, they saw an ancient temple. Outside the temple stood the third stele. This stele did not have a tortoise carrying a stele. Instead, it directly took a towering ancient tree, shaved off its surface and erected it as a wooden stele. Two words were engraved on the front of the stele. World isolation. On the back of the stele, a line of ancient and mysterious words was engraved. The purple star is on the left, the Big Dipper is on the right. When you open your eyes, it's a dream. When you close your eyes, it's emptiness. What does it mean? Ning Fan could not understand it at all. It was signed by Taoist Musong and the time was 12 million years after opening your eyes. This time, Taoist Musong did not use the Western heaven calendar to record the year. Instead, he used something that Ning Fan could not understand at all. What does it mean, purple star on the left, Big Dipper on the right? When you open your eyes, it's a dream. When you close your eyes, it's emptiness. This sentence was the incantation that was engraved on the 9 stone gates of infinite desolation. It is said that this sentence contained a divine ability left behind by an immortal sovereign. Many immortal emperors knew about this sentence. However, none of them could comprehend the true meaning of this sentence. In the past, Musong went to the Western heaven. After he came back, he cultivated the world isolation meditation and broke through to the peak 9 tribulation realm. However, he could not make any progress after that. Later on, he seemed to have comprehended something from this sentence and changed to cultivate the world isolation meditation. World isolation and world isolation were only one word apart, but they were fundamentally different. After that, he successfully broke through to the quasi-saint realm. Xiang Bozi seemed to recall the past and said with a nostalgic expression, "I got to know Musong when we were young. Musong's innate talent was extremely high. No matter how hard I tried to catch up to him, my strength would always be slightly inferior to him. When he was hiding from the world, I was not as strong as him, but the gap between us was still small. When he was hiding from the world, the gap between us was already huge. After he went into seclusion, I was no longer his match. 7 million years ago, I had a duel with him. During that battle, I used 70% of my strength while Musong only used 30%. In the end, it ended in a draw." When he said that, Xiang Bozi smiled bitterly. After not seeing Musong for 7 million years, the gap between him and Musong had probably widened. Moreover, he often suspected that Musong had already broken through to the second-level quasi-saint realms 7 million years ago. Otherwise, how could he fight him to a draw with just 30% of his cultivation base? Ning Fan was slightly speechless. He did not expect that Musong's strength would actually be so terrifying after cultivating the world isolation meditation. Hiding from the world, seclusion. If these 3 words were to be regarded as the 3 stages of Musong's cultivation, Ning Fan could understand the first 2 stages, but he could not understand the 3rd stage. What is seclusion? Were there such spells carved on the 9 stone gates of infinite wasteland? He was busy killing Inma with the eyeball monster and did not pay attention to the infinite wilderness stone gate. What do you mean by the 12 millionth spring and autumn after opening my eyes? Ning Fan asked again. This old man doesn't know the meaning of those words. If I could, this old man wouldn't be so much weaker than Musong, Xiang Bozi said with a bitter smile. At this moment, the voice of an old-fashioned old man suddenly came from the meditation room in the ancient temple. It was cold and unapproachable. "Xiang Bozi, is it? I haven't seen you for 7 million years, yet you've come to this old man's place again. You want to lose to me again? Don't you feel ashamed?" His tone was rather sharp, but Musong and Xiang Bozi were friends, so there was no harm in exchanging a few words. Sure enough, Xiang Bozi wasn't angered when he heard this. Instead, he scolded with a smile, "I haven't seen you for 7 million years, and my cultivation has improved greatly. It won't be as easy for you to defeat me this time." "Is that so? Then I'll have to ask you for advice later. However, before that, can you send those unrelated people away first?" A sudden Buddha roar came from the meditation room and went straight to Ning Fan. It was just a ma sound, but it carried the aura force of dragons and tigers. Even with Xiang Bozi's cultivation base, he felt a slight pain in his eardrums when he was affected by the Buddha roar. Ning Fan, who was at the center of the Buddha roar, felt an unprecedentedly heavy pressure. Strong. Extremely strong. Even though Taoist Musong's cultivation base was not as terrifying as Inmo's, the pressure he brought to Ning Fan was much heavier than when he fought against Inmo. After all, when he fought against Mo in the past, it was the eyeball monster who took the lead. Ning Fan did not have to bear Mo's pressure alone. This time, however, it was different. It was as if there were billions of monks roaring at the same time. That roar reverberated in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness like thunder. In an instant, Ning Fan's face turned pale and black blood flowed out from his ears. This roar might not be as powerful as the roar of the ancient great devil, but it was not much weaker than the roar that would weaken 10 years later. Under this roar, Ning Fan felt unbearable pain all over his body. The ancient devil cultivation base in his body, in particular, was showing signs of melting like the snow in the early spring. What a domineering Buddha roar! It could actually dissolve the ancient devil power in Ning Fan's body with just a single roar. Wait, this little friend Ning is my friend. Today, I also have something to ask of you. Quickly stop. Xiang Bozi's voice became anxious. He suddenly flicked his sleeves as if he wanted to sweep away the Buddha roar in heaven and earth to save Ning Fan. Mu Song, on the other hand, let out a cold snort. He activated his ability and the power of the Buddha roar instantly multiplied. Even with Xiang Bozi's cultivation base, he could not disperse the Buddha roar around Ning Fan. This young man has violated 2 of my taboos. My wooden island doesn't welcome him. Since he is your friend, I will let him go and spare his life. You can bring him away. I won't help you with the matter that you're asking for. He actually did not care about his friendship with Xiang Bozi and directly chased him away. It was obvious that he was a loner. Xiang Bozi smiled bitterly. He knew about Mu Song's taboos. Mu Song did not like outsiders entering his island. Bringing Ning Fan here had violated his first taboo. Mu Song did not like ancient devils. This was the usual attitude of Buddhist cultivators. He hated ancient devils. However, Ning Fan had the ancient devil chi on him. Thus, he had violated his second taboo. At first, I thought that Mu Song would accept Ning Fan into the island for my sake. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have brought Ning Fan here. Xiang Bozi's smile became even more bitter. His original intention of coming here was not just for the heaven-opening stone. He also wanted to introduce Ning Fan to Mu Song, a senior. How could he not bring Ning Fan here? One should know that even the dark races were wary of Mu Song. If Ning Fan was fortunate enough to gain Mu Song's favor and protection, the dark races would have to think twice before attacking Ning Fan again. Xiang Bozi's original intention was to let Mu Song become Ning Fan's backer in the future. Now, however, it seemed like he had outsmarted himself. Forget it. I will bring him away first. Quickly withdraw your Buddha roar. Don't destroy his cultivation base. Just as Xiang Bozi's words left his mouth, he saw Ning Fan withstanding the might of the Buddha roar. Amidst the tens of thousands of sound waves, Ning Fan took a step towards an extremely tricky and strange direction. It was just one step, but it left a dazzling golden footprint on the loose soil. Then it was the second step, the third step, step by step, step by step. This is the prestige character art of the Eastern demon ancestor. Xiang Bozi's eyes immediately turned solemn. Mu Song's soft exclamation also resounded from the monastery. In just the blink of an eye, Ning Fan had already taken 9 steps. After the 9th step, it was as if all the might of the Buddha roar had been crushed under his feet. As he stomped on the ground, it was as if he was stepping on the veins of heaven and earth. Immediately, circles of ripples of Tao laws spread out, forming tremors that shook the ancient pine on the island. With a cracking sound, an opening was torn open amidst the roars of countless Buddhas. All of a sudden, heaven and earth fell into silence. Mu Song's Buddha roar disappeared like smoke. Ning Fan had actually broken Taoist Mu Song's Buddha roar head-on with his current cultivation base. Impossible. According to the rumors in the outside world, the Rain Sovereign is just a newly advanced immortal venerable. How is it possible for him to withstand a roar from my master? The ones who exclaimed were the disciples of Taoist Mu Song in the monastery. All of them were either dressed like monks or Taoists. Among these disciples, the lowest cultivation base was at the early thought fragmentation realm, while the strongest ones were even immortal venerables of all ages. Other than these monks and Taoists, There was also an outsider. He was an elderly man in black robes. At this moment, his expression was gloomy. Reign immortal monarch, Ning Fan. What is he doing here? Besides, how did he withstand Senior Musong's roar? That strange footwork just now. Could it be the legendary prestige character art of the Eastern Demon Ancestor? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.